Chapter 117. Qi Wu Zhongshuan. Hearing this familiar name, Noah frowned. He didn't hide his dislike for this name or the owner of this name. Xing Tianzi didn't expect Noah to have such a reaction, and his face showed a surprised look. What? President Noah has seen Qi Wu Zhongshuan? No, I haven't seen him. Noah's frowned brows gradually relaxed. But, even if you haven't seen him, I believe that the name Qi Wu Zhongshuan, no matter who it is, will more or less have some impression. Xing Tianzi nodded in agreement. In this country that used to be called Japan, now, except for the unexplored areas occupied by protozoa, there are 5 areas where humans can live. Tokyo, Sapporo, Sendai, Osaka, Bodo. In these 5 regions, each of the 5 heads of state ruled over one of the 5 regions. Xing Tianzi is the ruler of the Tokyo area. And Qi Wu Zhongshuan is the ruler of the Osaka area. Noah really hasn't met the ruler of Osaka, but he has contacted him twice on the phone. The first time was after the establishment of Fairy Tale, and gradually made a name for itself. The second time was recently when the Scorpio was killed and the existence of the bullet was exposed to the world to confuse the public. Therefore, Noah was not unfamiliar with this name. Xing Tianzi seemed to have more or less guessed the reason for this and spoke with some distress. Actually, the president of Qi Wu suddenly asked us to come to the Tokyo area in the next few days, hoping that we can prepare for a meeting. A meeting? Noah was startled and puzzled. As far as I know, in the past few years, the Tokyo area and the Osaka area have not been in contact and communication, right? Why did he suddenly ask for a meeting? I don't know. Xing Tianzi glanced at Noah hesitantly. But, I think, could the president be coming for President Noah? Me? Noah pondered for a moment, then shook his head and denied it. No, I don't think so. Maybe Qi Wu Zhongshuan doesn't mind meeting me directly, but I don't think his real target this time is me. Is that so? The Holy Sun lowered his eyes slightly. But he chose to visit me at this time, which makes me a little uneasy. Uneasy? Noah tilted his head and looked at the Elysian prince. Why? Suddenly, the beautiful princess showed a bitter expression. After a while, she opened her mouth in shame. Because Mr. Kikuchi isn't in Tokyo right now. Hearing this, Noah raised his eyebrows slightly. In other words, without that old man around, you don't dare to come into contact with those big shots. I admit that I'm not very mature, but I'm not afraid because of a meeting. The Elysian prince said to Noah with a little reproach in his voice. The reason why I feel uneasy is because the president of Qi Wu and Mr. Kikuchi Chain were political enemies before the war. For him, his opponent in Tokyo should be Mr. Kikuchi Chain, not me, who just came of age. So that's how it is. Noah pretended not to see the Elysian prince's reproach and said. For Qi Wu Zhongshuan, the real threat in Tokyo should be the old man, but this time, he came at this time when the old man is not around. It seems that he didn't just come to test something or to discuss some political affairs, but he has other purposes. Are you feeling uneasy? Yes. The Elysian prince raised his head and looked up at Noah, who was more than a head taller than himself. His holy face seemed to be shining. So, I hope that during this time, President Noah can always protect me as a guard and attend the meeting with me. Attend the meeting with you as a guard. Noah crossed his arms and asked. Why choose me? This was also the biggest question in Noah's heart. Excluding other factors, Noah was not a good choice for the duty of a guard. The reason was very simple. Although Noah had obtained a police license for the sake of convenience and could be considered a police officer, he still did not have his own initiator until now. As everyone knew, the initiators had powers that far exceeded that of humans. So, even if he wanted to choose a guard, the Elysian prince should choose those who had a powerful initiator as a partner and a relatively high IP ranking. There was no reason to choose Noah, who didn't have a partner and whose IP ranking had not been promoted because of this. In addition, there was another problem. Don't you have regular guards by your side? Noah asked. I heard that you have your own guards. I was just about to introduce them to you. The Elysian prince said as he greeted Noah and led him out of the room. Outside the room, a group of about 6 men dressed in solemn white attire were neatly lined up in a line, standing there as if they were in a parade. As if they had been waiting here since the beginning, when Noah and the Elysian prince came out of the room, everyone's eyes were focused on them. Almost at the instant these people's gazes converged on him, Noah felt an extremely obscure hostility and even murderous aura following closely behind. It caused his figure to pause for a moment, and then he recovered his nonchalant appearance. President Noah. The Elysian prince closed the door and nodded to Noah. This is my guard. At the same time, in the middle of the guards, an extremely tall man stepped forward and looked at Noah with a smile. I am Heartwarming, the captain of the Elysian Prince's guards. I have heard of you for a long time, President Noah. With that said, the captain of the guards, Heartwarming, extended his hand to Noah with a friendly expression on his face. However, Noah did not even look at Heartwarming's hand. Instead, he raised his head and looked into Heartwarming's eyes. In that pair of eyes that were like a scorpion, filled with aggression and danger, Noah very clearly captured the hidden coldness and malice. At that moment, Noah glanced at Heartwarming, and the corner of his mouth curled up at an angle that seemed to make the temperature of the scene drop a little. He extended his hand and shook Heartwarming's hand. I am Noah. The smile on Heartwarming's face suddenly became wider and wider. He seemed to welcome Noah very much. The Elysian prince, who saw the two getting along well, couldn't help but show a smile. Only Noah could feel that as soon as he shook Heartwarming's hand, a strong grip immediately came from Heartwarming's hand. If it was an ordinary person, even if it was a police officer who didn't lack training, he would have groaned in pain due to being caught off guard by the other party's strong grip. Unfortunately, Noah has been training his physical abilities for many years. In the past year, he has continuously strengthened himself with the protozoan virus countless times. His physical ability has long surpassed that of humans, even far surpassing that of the cursed child. Therefore, Bao Zhuoran could only feel that he was not holding a palm, but a piece of incomparably hard steel. Not only did the force he exerted on it not return, but it also bounced back as if there was no force behind it, causing his hand to hurt. Even his expression was slightly distorted. Noticing that something was wrong, the Elysian prince immediately stepped forward and chuckled at Noah. In that case, President Noah, would you be willing to accept this guard mission? In an instant, Noah felt that the hostility and malice from Heartwarming became even more obvious. Looking at the beautiful Elysian prince and then at Heartwarming, an idea arose in Noah's mind. At the same time, he suddenly smiled and gave such an answer. Yes. I'd be happy to. Chapter 118. For the next hour, Noah stayed in the holy residence and discussed with Elysium the details of the guard plan, the route, the schedule, the payment, the deadline, and so on. Originally, things like the guard plan, the route, and the itinerary should have been discussed with Noah by the holy residence's guards, led by Bao Mengjua. There was no need to trouble the Holy Son about the remuneration. He only needed to discuss it with the Holy Son's secretary. However, Elysium used the reason that Noah was her personal guard and that she was the one who entrusted Noah with the task. She gave Noah full authority to draft the guard plan and let Elysium personally discuss the payment with Noah. In this regard, Noah did not have any objections. He did not need to discuss the guard plan with the holy residence guards, nor did he need to discuss the payment with some unknown secretary. He only needed to discuss with Elysium, which was quite relaxing. After drafting the guard plan and handing it over to Elysium, Noah walked out of the room under Elysium's gaze. Sigh, walking in a corridor of the holy residence that led to an unknown place, Noah scratched his cheek and suddenly sighed. Qi Wuzongxuan. Thinking back to the 2 times he spoke with Qi Wuzongxuan on the phone, Noah could not help but feel lazy. He had an impulse to regret accepting this commission. To be honest, although they had only talked twice, Noah's impression of Qi Wuzongxuan was really bad. It was almost comparable to Chrysanthemum Tenzin. It could be said that Qi Wuzongxuan was definitely the most typical type of person that Noah hated the most. Therefore, Noah did not want to deal with people like that at all. In addition, Qi Wuzongxuan was a political enemy of Chrysanthemum Tenzin for more than 10 years. When he thought that he would have to face someone who was very similar to Chrysanthemum Tenzin in some aspects, Noah could not help but feel a sense of irritation. Sure enough, it's better to reject this commission, right? As soon as he finished speaking, Noah abruptly stopped in his tracks, and a thought-provoking look appeared in his eyes. I also agree with your idea. Then, it was unknown if the man had noticed that Noah had stopped before he appeared. Behind Noah, a hard object was pressed against the back of his head. Noah Dole, it's best if you give up on this mission, even if it's for your own sake. After saying that, the rest of the people emerged from behind Noah and surrounded him, except for the one who was standing behind him. They were dressed in dignified white attire and had guns at their waists. However, the holsters were empty and the guns were held in their hands. They surrounded Noah and aimed at his body. They were the guards of the holy abode that had just entered Noah's sight under the introduction of the holy sun. Noah looked around at the guards who surrounded him and pointed their guns at him. Seeing the ridicule and contempt in their eyes and faces at the same time, he shrugged helplessly. What are you doing? Captain Zhuameng. The person who stood behind Noah and pointed a gun at the back of Noah's head was none other than Zhuameng. However, in a situation where Noah could not see but could guess, Zhuameng's face, which had been very friendly until now had the same sinister expression as the bully. A pair of eyes that were almost identical to that of a snake and a lizard released undisguised malice. Shut up. Zhuameng pressed the gun in his hand to the back of Noah's head and shouted in a low voice. I am the glorious captain of the Holy Abode's guards. You are just a monster leader who adopted a group of monsters. Don't talk to me as if you are my equal. The surrounding guards suddenly laughed mockingly, but they did not notice that Noah's eyes had already begun to turn cold. The hero who defeated Scorpio. Zhuameng seemed to have tolerated Noah for a long time and kept whispering in a low voice. If I had the bullet that could defeat Scorpio, I could also become the hero who defeated Scorpio. You are such a lucky guy, you are really unpleasant to look at. Why is it you? Slowly, the tone of Zhuameng's bodyguard was filled with hatred. Undoubtedly, His Excellency Heavenly Child has entrusted the Holy Sun to me. The person standing next to the Holy Sun should be me. Why did you, a lucky guy, suddenly get entrusted by the Holy Sun and was even invited into his room by the Holy Sun? Room? This time, Noah was surprised. Is that really the Holy Sun's room? Add the word Lord for me. Zhuameng couldn't help but growl. Don't call me so intimately. That beautiful head of state is mine. Only I can get her and become the new ruler of Tokyo. Oh. Noah looked motionless in front of him and said indifferently. Although I have a little guess, you really have so much hostility to me because of this. Listening to Noah's somewhat indifferent words, Zhuameng's pupils widened slightly, and his body trembled with anger. Why are you pretending to be calm? Zhuameng raised his hand holding the gun, and then slammed the butt of the gun at Noah's head. He did not mean to show any mercy. You should be trembling with fear now. After the words, Zhuameng's gun that was ready to hit Noah's head swung, but it hit empty air. With a whistling sound, Noah, who was originally standing in front of Zhuameng with his back facing Zhuameng, suddenly disappeared from everyone's sight. When he reappeared, he was already behind Zhuameng. Then, before everyone present could react, Noah casually extended his leg and hooked it under the foot of the bodyguard, who was leaning forward because he missed his swing. Bang! The bodyguard, who had completely lost his balance, was not prepared at all. He heavily smashed into the ground. His nose, which was originally firm, had become the part that was most affected by the impact. Joel let out a disappointing scream. Around, all the guards who wanted to watch a good show did not expect Noah to suddenly counterattack. After they reacted, they quickly aimed at Noah. However, in the next moment, those guards' faces showed a stunned look. It was because the guns that should have been in their hands had disappeared without them knowing. Hey! Noah's voice sounded. Are you looking for this? As this sentence came out, Noah waved his hand casually, and a pile of guns fell from his hand, making a dull thud on the ground. You! The guards began to retreat because of the shock. You, bastard! Shuameng, who fell to the ground, covered his red nose bridge and roared angrily. Just as he was about to get up, a foot suddenly appeared on his back and slammed down hard. Bang! Goo! Shuawei was once again lying on the ground. The huge force coming from his back squeezed out all the air in his lungs. His chest and back felt as if they had hit a rock, causing him to cry out in pain. Stop, stop! The shocked guards finally remembered that they had to help Shuameng, but before they could rush forward, a sharp gaze swept across their bodies. All the guards were frozen on the spot by conditioned reflex, forgetting to move. Humph, Noah sneered, lowered his head, looked at Shuameng, who kept screaming under his feet, and reminded him kindly. The future ruler of the Tokyo area was actually trampled under the feet of a lucky monster leader like me. Should I express my gratitude for your generosity in offering up your back? Chapter 119. You! Shuawei's face turned ferocious. He struggled to get up, but the foot on his back was like a heavy mountain, pressing down on him. Not only was he unable to get up, but even his face had turned purple. Noah gradually exerted force on his foot that was stepping on Shuawei's back. At the same time, he bent down as if Shuawei was a step to step on. He smiled faintly. I thought the first person to aim a gun at me would be the Chrysanthemum Tendo. I didn't expect it to be you, a character I've never heard of before. Hearing this, whether it was the bodyguard or the guards of the sacred abode, they all woke up. As the guards of the sacred abode, when they were responsible for protecting the Holy Son of Heaven, they couldn't avoid contact with the Chrysanthemum Tendo. It could even be said that they were the subordinates of the Chrysanthemum Tendo. Therefore, the guards of the holy abode who were present all knew about this. The man in front of them, although only the leader of a civilian organization without any official position or status, was a character that even the Chrysanthemum Tendo wanted to deal with. Moreover, he wasn't a character that could be dealt with just because they wanted to. At the thought of this, the bodyguard's eyes finally showed fear. The guards also looked at each other, and some of them shrank back. You, what do you want to do? The bodyguard mustered up his courage and shouted. This is the sacred abode. We are the guards of the Holy Son of Heaven. If you attack us, we can sue you. Ha! Noah pretended to be surprised. But aren't you the future ruler of the Tokyo area? You should directly convict me, right? Why do you need to go through the trouble of suing me? The bodyguard was speechless for a while, and began to regret in his heart. Of course, what the bodyguard regretted was not that he provoked Noah. Even in such a situation, the bodyguard still hated Noah to the bone. The bodyguard regretted that he didn't directly cripple Noah's hands and feet at the beginning and then talk to him. At that time, the position of the one who stepped on and the one who was stepped on would definitely be reversed. Of course, it never occurred to Zhuo Ren that a mere captain of the Holy Abode's guards would not be able to pull off such a sneak attack. He had never thought that even if he were to launch a sneak attack, the the success rate would not be guaranteed. Unfortunately, not to mention this world, even the magical world where Noah was originally from didn't have a miraculous item called the medicine of regret. The truth was that Ren was currently being trampled under Noah's feet, and there was nothing he could do. At that moment, Ren could only say in an extremely aggrieved manner, "You. What do you want?" "I don't want anything." Noah looked around, then looked at the bodyguard below him and sighed. "I just wanted to see what kind of tricks you're up to, and what kind of tricks you're going to play. In the end, is this what the so-called holy residence guards are like?" This time, not to mention the bodyguards, even the faces of the surrounding guards became incomparably sullen. "Why am I saying so much to you?" Noah seemed to have lost interest and retracted his foot. "If you know what you're capable of, who you can offend and who you can't, you wouldn't be like this." After that, Noah directly walked past Ren, who was lying on the ground, and walked out. The guards who were originally in a surrounding formation suddenly scattered as if they were running for their lives, allowing Noah to walk out of the encirclement and to the other end of the corridor. "Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Damn it!" Only then did Ren, who had climbed up from the ground and clutched his chest, let out a resentful voice. His eyes were full of venom as he stared in the direction where Noah disappeared. "Don't let me get the chance." When Noah walked out of the holy residence, the sun had already set halfway to the west, dyeing the sky dark red. Noah stretched his back, the bones in his body letting out crisp and pleasant sounds, but he didn't know how many sighs he had let out today. Noah thought that after he kicked down the bodyguard, they would yell and scream at the top of their lungs, attracting the attention of the other people in the holy abode and even the Holy Son of Heaven. Then, they would complain that Noah injured them in the holy abode. Based on the situation at that time, even if the Holy Son of Heaven was there and saw the scene of Noah stepping on Ren, he would choose to believe Ren's words and question Noah. For this, Noah was already prepared and had a way to deal with it. Who knew? In the end, not only did Ren not do so, but he also acted as if he didn't know what to do even if he was stepped on. He didn't think that he would kick an iron plate when bullying others. Noah easily saw through it. It wasn't that Ren didn't want to fight back with the most effective method, but that Ren didn't think that there would be such a method in that situation. It seemed that the holy residence's guards led by Ren were worse than Noah thought. Perhaps they performed well on a daily basis, but in a sudden situation where unexpected things happened, their ability to deal with it was at the level of a layman. That princess has been using this kind of guards until now. How did she survive all these years? Noah let out such a sigh from the bottom of his heart, lifted his feet, and walked forward. However, at this time, a bicycle circled around the fountain in front of the holy residence, and entered Noah's field of vision, making Noah stop in his tracks. The reason for stopping was very simple. The person who rode the bicycle around the fountain was a young girl who was about the same age as Yenju and Xiaoshi. Her silver gold hair was shining under the red light of the setting sun and fluttering in the wind. Because of the eye-catching hair color, no one noticed this young girl. On the seat of the bicycle, the young girl wore a loose pajama and slippers on her feet. Her conspicuous long hair was in a messy state, her mouth was half open, and her eyes were half squinted. She looked like her soul had left the sky as she stepped on the bicycle, causing the bicycle to sway. This obviously strange state was one of the reasons why no one noticed this young girl. Looking at the other party circling around the fountain and swaying, Noah couldn't help but start to worry. She won't suddenly fall, right? This thought had just risen from Noah's heart, when the young girl who was staggering on the bicycle seemed to have been blown by a cold wind. She shuddered, and the movement of her feet increased in speed, causing the already swaying bicycle to sway even more, and it even rushed out. Moreover, in front of the bicycle that suddenly accelerated out, Noah stood there. Looking at the bicycle that was rushing towards him, Noah was stunned, and immediately dodged, avoiding the bicycle that was making a gag sound as it rushed past him. At the same time, Noah also reached out and grabbed the young girl who was sitting on the bicycle. She looked like she didn't understand what was going on. She was stunned there, and he pulled her out of the bicycle. The swaying bicycle didn't slow down, and directly rushed to the side of the guardrail. Bang! In the sound of a collision, the child-sized bicycle fiercely hit the guardrail, and flew in an extremely exaggerated arc, drawing a parabola, and heavily smashed into the ground not far away. Bang! Another muffled sound, and the poor bicycle fell apart on the ground, becoming a pile of parts. Ah! Looking at this scene, before Noah could say anything, the young girl in Noah's arms blankly opened her mouth. My bicycle, you still care about your bicycle? Noah, who was holding the young girl, didn't hesitate to scold her. If I didn't hold you, you would be like your bicycle, becoming a part of the pile of parts. The young girl was stunned again, and looked up blankly at Noah. After a while, she blankly smiled. A hero saving a beauty, Noah was speechless. Chapter 120. Sit down obediently and don't move. On the bench beside the fountain, Noah skillfully tidied up the clothes of the dazed girl. Then, he stroked the girl's long silver-gold hair that was over her shoulders. Using some unknown technique, he smoothed out the messy hair. The young girl sat there obediently. She had a dazed expression on her face as if she had not woken up yet. However, she did not move and allowed Noah to manipulate her. She even exclaimed in amazement. Amazing, you can fix her hair with your hands. Because I have a group of annoying children who are around your age and need me to take care of them. After a while, I got used to it and learned this skill. What a convenient skill. I think so too. Thanks to this, I've been completely pestered by the group of children. I have to help them tidy up their hair every day. While they were chatting, Noah also stopped what he was doing. At this moment, the young lady's clothes were no longer as sloppy as before. Her elegant shoulder-length hair had also become smoother. In addition, the young lady had a small face that didn't lose out to Yenju and Xiaoshi. She looked exceptionally adorable. That is, if you ignore the dazed expression on the girl's face. Looking at the heavy eyelids of the girl in front of him, who looked like she could fall asleep at any time, Noah couldn't help but pull her face. At such a young age, don't tell me you learned to stay up all night just to watch anime or something. Children should go to bed early. No. It's not like that. Even though Noah was pulling her face, the little girl was still in a daze as she mumbled incoherently. I'm just used to moving around at night, so it's very tiring during the day, then. That's right. No. Okay. Unknowingly, Noah used the tone he used to talk to the children in Fairy Tale. Daytime is the time for children and even normal people to move around. Nighttime is used for sleeping. Moreover, sleeping at night also plays a very important role in resting the body. That's something that daytime can't compare to. You have to quickly correct this bad habit of yours. Otherwise, I'll have to talk to your parents. Hearing this, the young girl looked at Noah in a daze. Only when Noah felt a little strange did she smile foolishly. This is the first time someone cares about me so much. I feel so happy. Is this the first time someone cares about me so much? Noah frowned. Doesn't your family care about you? In response to this question, the girl only smiled and changed the topic as if she was just brushing him off. Big brother is so gentle. You. Seeing that the girl seemed to have something she didn't want to say, Noah didn't say much even though he was very concerned. That was her privacy. Therefore, Noah changed the question. So, what's your name? Me. For some reason, the girl's delirious eyes flashed with obvious hesitation. However, in the next second, she seemed to have given up on something and spoke. My name is Tina, Tina Sprout. Tina. Noah patted Tina's little head. Looking at this little girl with a dazed face, a trace of doting appeared in his heart, causing his expression to soften involuntarily. Tina, you're not a foreigner or a mixed blood, are you? Tina blinked her misty eyes and opened her mouth slightly, looking at Noah in a daze. Big brother is really amazing, you even guessed this. It's because the form of your name in the Tokyo area, or rather in this country, is an irregular form of name. Noah shook his head with a smile. In addition, your hair color is also very rare in this country, so most people would guess that you're a foreigner or a mixed blood, right? Is that so? Tina's eyelids drooped tiredly. She shook her head left and right, then she used her index finger to support her chin and slowly spoke. Then what's Big Brother's name? This. Noah was a little hesitant. In a way, Noah's name was actually not a name that could be casually used to introduce himself. As long as it was a person in the Tokyo area, even if it was a child, they would have heard of the name Noah Doria. This was because everyone knew that Noah Doria was the president of Fairy Tale, the shelter of the cursed child that everyone regarded as a monster. In the Tokyo area, most people were of plundered generations and people who greatly discriminated against the cursed child. Therefore, even if it was a child, when they were at home, they would be secretly instilled with thoughts like, Noah Doria is a big bad guy who raises monsters, you must not get close to him, otherwise you will be eaten by monsters, by the adults. Noah could not be sure that Tina was not a child who had been brainwashed by the hate-filled adults. If Tina was also instilled with such thoughts, then if Noah revealed his name here, it would definitely scare Tina, and it might even make her cry. Therefore, Noah subconsciously chose to hide it. Well, you can just call me Big Brother. Why is that? Tina narrowed her eyes and protested, but was ignored by Noah. Alright, Tina. Noah stood up, walked in front of Tina who was sitting on the bench, and patted her little head. I'm going back now, what about you? Do you need me to send you back? Tina stared blankly at Noah for a long time. After a long time, she squeezed out this sentence. Is Big Brother finally going to abandon me? Abandon? Noah was stunned. Why would I abandon you? Because Big Brother is going to leave, Tina said innocently. You're going to abandon Tina and leave. No, didn't I ask you if you want me to send you home? Noah laughed bitterly. This counts as abandoning. Yes. Tina nodded heavily. It counts. Noah suddenly rolled his eyes. After a moment of distress, he said. Then I'll tell you my phone number, that way no matter where I go, you'll be able to find me, is that okay? Phone number. Tina was stunned. Seeing this, Noah shrugged and told Tina his phone number. Tina repeated Noah's phone number over and over again. After a while, she suddenly turned around and pulled out her phone from her pocket. Just when Noah was surprised that a 10-year-old child would carry a phone with her, in his pocket, Noah's phone rang. Hee hee. Tina turned around again, and gave Noah a crazy smile. I thought Big Brother gave me a fake number. Why would I do that? Noah was helpless. Although they only spent a short time together, Noah always felt that this little girl named Tina in front of him was always in control of his rhythm. No, it was more accurate to say that it was because Tina's own rhythm was too difficult to control, causing Noah to fall into Tina's rhythm and be pulled around by Tina. Today is a very happy day. Tina put away her phone in a leisurely manner before climbing down from the bench. She looked up at Noah with an adorable smile on her face. Big Brother, you can't lie to me. If I call you, you have to be able to be found by me at any time. If I'm free. Noah added. After all, adults have a lot of things to do. Big Brother is such a bad guy. Although she said this, Tina's face was always smiling, completely without the mischievous and naughty look that a child should have, appearing very precocious. Well. Noah scratched his head. Then do you need me to send you home? There's no need for that, I remember the way home. Tina cocked her head to the side before extending a polite salute toward Noah. I hope to see you again next time. After that, Tina ignored Noah, swayed her petite body, and walked out of the park where the fountain was. Noah stood in the same spot, watching Tina, until Tina's swaying figure disappeared from his sight, then Noah turned around and left in the opposite direction. At this time, neither of them expected. This meeting was just the beginning. Chapter 121. Today's weather was unusually bright, as if even the gods were blessing the ruler of Tokyo, giving the entire Tokyo area excellent weather. Under the blue sky, on a road, a luxurious limousine drove forward at a leisurely pace. There was a car in front, back, left, and right of the limousine, protecting it in the center as it drove forward. In the middle of the limousine, Noah and Xingzi sat opposite each other. Xingzi sat in a very upright position on the car seat that was softer than a sofa and more comfortable than a bed. His holy face looked straight ahead, which was Noah. Noah didn't seem to notice that Xingzi had been observing him. He seemed to be sitting there casually, but his eyes were cast out of the window from time to time, sweeping the surroundings from time to time. It was very obscure. Xingzi, who clearly saw Noah's behavior, knew that Noah was not looking at the scenery, but was vigilant of the surroundings to prevent any accidents. This made Xingzi slightly surprised. It's really surprising. Noah looked at the Elysian child in confusion. What do you mean? As far as I know, President Noah has always been focused on the operation of Fairy Tale. Although he has obtained a police license, he has almost never carried out a police task, and he doesn't even have a partner. Xingzi exclaimed. But looking at you now, you don't seem to be very unfamiliar with guard tasks, right? Noah was slightly relieved, and he couldn't help but feel a burst of laughter in his heart. Indeed, for more than a year in the Tokyo area, Noah had basically put his heart and soul into the establishment of Fairy Tale. As for the work of a police officer, he had not carried out many tasks. Logically speaking, he should have no experience in escort tasks. It was completely normal for Xingzi to have such an accident. Unfortunately, no matter how smart Xingzi was, he couldn't have guessed that Noah didn't do guard tasks in this world, but in the other world, because of his work, he had already completed many guard-related commissions in Fairy Tale. Therefore, not only was Noah not unfamiliar with guard missions, but he was also very familiar with them. Of course, the sage son of heaven didn't know about this. However, Noah did not know whether to laugh or cry at the holy son of heaven's words. Since you know that I've never carried out any police mission and don't even have a partner, you still dare to hire me as a guard and put your life in my hands. What do you want me to say? Hearing this, Xingtianzi smiled calmly. I just feel that guild leader Noah should be trustworthy. Am I trustworthy? This time, Noah didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If I remember correctly, we have met less than 5 times so far, right? It has nothing to do with the number of times we've met. The Holy Son of Heaven didn't explain further. He gave Noah an unfathomable smile and said, If you really can't figure it out, guild leader Noah, then just treat it as me being willful. It's the first time I've seen someone willful putting their life in danger. Should I say, as expected of the princess? Noah rolled his eyes. I really hope that when you talk to Chiwu Zhongshuan later, you can be willful and not be led by the nose by him. Regarding Chiwu Zhongshuan, I also have something to ask guild leader Noah. Xingtianzi was silent for a while and said, What kind of person is Chiwu Zhongshuan? Hearing this, Noah paused for a moment. Have you never met Chiwu Zhongshuan before? Yes. Xing Tianzi nodded seriously. When it comes to Chiwu Zhongshuan, both guild leader Noah and Mr. Zhu Zhiqing have a face full of displeasure, so I'm very curious, what kind of person is this person? After being asked this question, Noah rubbed his forehead as if he was having a headache. After organizing his words, he replied. Let me tell you this, Chiwu Zhongshuan has called me twice. The first time was after Fairy Tale was established and became famous, and the second time was after the news of killing Scorpio's bullet was exposed. Noah looked into Xing Tianzi's eyes. And do you know why Chiwu Zhongshuan chose to call me at these 2 times? Xing Tianzi frowned and then shook his head. In this regard, Noah smiled fearlessly. In the first call, Chiwu Zhongshuan wanted me to train all the cursed children in Fairy Tale into soldiers or even men of sacrifice. He wanted them to work for him under his banner. Xing Tianzi's face changed instantly. Noah acted as if he didn't see Xing Tianzi's change in expression and continued. And the second time, Chiwu Zhongshuan asked me to provide him with all the information related to the bullet, and even provide him with the bullet. For this, he was willing to pay any price. This. Xing Tianzi immediately smelled the unusual information from Noah's words. Do you understand? Noah sighed aloud. Chiwu Zhongshuan wants all of the cursed children in Fairy Tale to become his soldiers and men of sacrifice. He also wants to obtain the bullets at all costs. His goal is definitely not as simple as dealing with primitive animals. This person's ambition is very terrifying, and he is like the celestial chrysanthemum prime minister. In order to achieve his goal, he will use all means. That's why I hate him. I hate him very much. Speaking of this, Noah solemnly said to Xing Tianzi. No matter what, this person is definitely not a good person. Take it as a piece of advice. Listen to me, if you want to communicate with him, you have to be careful. I understand. Xing Tianzi clenched his lace-gloved hand and nodded solemnly. Thank you very much for your advice, President Noah. Please don't leave my side. Don't worry. Noah's pair of deep eyes flashed with a bright light. At least, with me here, you don't have to worry about your own safety. Looking at Noah's pair of deep dark eyes and listening to Noah's unwavering words, Xing Tianzi clenched the hand on his chest. In that position, a heart was beating at a much faster rate than before. The meeting place with Chiwu Zhongshuan was in a super tall hotel with more than 86 floors. After the war with primitive animals, the land of all countries in the world was occupied by primitive animals, causing the available land area to be greatly reduced. Under such circumstances, it was necessary to build extremely tall buildings in an area to accommodate a large number of people. Therefore, after the introduction of the law that provided for the preferential treatment of fixed assets tax for vertical expansion of buildings, a large number of super tall buildings rose from the ground in various areas at lightning speed. Even in the Tokyo area, buildings comparable to the height of mountains were already everywhere. And the hotel in front of them was said to be on par with the embassies of various regions. It was often used as a secret base by important officials. In here, perhaps, one could meet a famous official in 1 or 2 rooms. Moreover, they might be discussing some things that others were not allowed to know. That was not necessarily the case. Xing Tianzi and Chiwu Zhongshuan's meeting place was on the top floor. It was not so much a room in the hotel, but rather a private observatory specially set up on the top floor of a high-rise building. Noah and Xing Tianzi, who walked out of the elevator, saw the man almost immediately. The man in a suit stood up from the sofa and looked back, exuding a wild aura. Nice to meet you, Mr. Xing Tianzi. As he said this, the ambitious man named Chiwu Zhongshuan slowly revealed a dangerous smile that made people's hearts palpitate. It was like a lion with its mouth wide open, ready to swallow people at any time. This made Xing Tianzi realize. The visitor was not friendly. Chapter 122. Oh. It seemed that Chiwu Zhongshuan had only just noticed Noah's existence. He raised his eyebrows as he looked over. Isn't this the little brat from fairy tale? As soon as he said this, Xing Tianzi's expression was somewhat serious, not to mention Noah's feelings. Undoubtedly, the ruler of the same area as Chiwu Zhongshuan was right in front of him. However, Chiwu Zhongshuan only greeted Xing Tianzi and started talking to a guard. This clearly showed that Chiwu Zhongshuan really didn't take Xing Tianzi, who was too young, seriously. Noah glanced at Xing Tianzi's serious expression, smiled indifferently, and said to Chiwu Zhongshuan, "Are you very surprised to see me here? I'm more surprised that you're doing this kind of bodyguard job." Chiwu Zhongshuan's pair of beards slightly curled up as he snorted coldly. "Why didn't you join me along with your fairy tale? You should know that what I can give you is definitely much better than any bodyguard job." Such a blatant statement once again made Xing Tianzi realize that the visitor was not friendly. On the contrary, Noah smiled disdainfully. "Then you should also know that I don't care about what you give me at all." Humph. Chiwu Zhongshuan glared at Noah. "Just like the previous 2 times on the phone, your tone is still so arrogant. You're just a mere police officer. You choose the way to treat people based on their status. You're really worthy of being called an old thief." Noah's tone also became harsh with Chiwu Zhongshuan's words. "If I remember correctly, the strongest police officer can even control the entire world's military situation. Old thief, in today's world, status is already outdated. What matters now is strength. If you don't even understand this point and run out, you'd better hurry back to your Osaka area." Chiwu Zhongshuan's eyes were filled with real anger as he stared at Noah. Noah, on the other hand, didn't show any signs of weakness as he stared back with a smile on his face. In the end, Chiwu Zhongshuan withdrew his gaze and chose to retreat. Noah shrugged. He caught a glimpse of Holy Sun's nervous expression as he clutched his laced gloves. He was dumbfounded. "Don't mess around, Lord Holy Son of Heaven, this is just the opening. The real show is yet to come. If you are so nervous now, what will happen later?" However, this was not Xing Tianzi's fault. In the past, when the Elysian children participated in meetings, the big shots would more or less care about their reputation. They wouldn't be like Noah and Chiwu Zhongshuan, openly cursing each other. Everything had to be done properly. Therefore, Elysium had never encountered such a situation where she would start off with such harsh words. As a young girl who had just reached adulthood, it was natural for her to be nervous. With no other choice, Noah could only cover for Elysian Son of Heaven. "I'm only here as a guard today. President Chi Wu, shouldn't you ask my target to sit down?" Chiwu Zhongshuan shook his chin and sat down. He gestured to Elysian Son of Heaven to sit. Noah secretly shook Elysian Son of Heaven's hand, which startled Elysian Son of Heaven. She took a deep breath and suppressed her nervousness. She returned a grateful look to Noah and sat down opposite Chiwu Zhongshuan. Noah also moved behind Elysian Son of Heaven and stood there motionless like a real bodyguard. Just when Elysian Son of Heaven and Noah thought that Chiwu Zhongshuan was going to start the meeting, Chiwu Zhongshuan once again looked at Noah and said, "What do you think about the matter from last time?" "The matter from last time?" Noah narrowed his eyes slightly. "Are you referring to the bullet matter? If you don't want your fairy tale to become my minion, I won't force you. But the bullet is different." Chiwu Zhongshuan's eyes became like a wolf's, full of aggression and greed. "It's a super weapon that can threaten stage V gastronomic animals. I must get my hands on it." Once again, Chiwu Zhongshuan did not hide his inner thoughts and made a blatant declaration. Elysian Son of Heaven, who had no experience in dealing with situations like this, was a little uneasy. He chose to remain silent for the time being, thinking about how to take back the initiative. Noah crossed his arms. Since he did not sit down, he could look down at Chiwu Zhongshuan from above and said sarcastically. If you only want to deal with gastronomic animals, then you don't have to get your hands on the bullet, do you? I must get my hands on it. Chiwu Zhongshuan said firmly. It's because I want to deal with more than just gastronomic animals that I must get my hands on it. Elysian Son of Heaven could no longer remain silent. Do you want to use it to deal with humans? What's wrong with thinking about the world after all gastronomic animals are expelled? Chiwu Zhongshuan said matter-of-factly. Lord Elysian Son of Heaven, I don't believe that you don't understand. In today's world, we must quickly regain our territory from the unprecedented disaster of being persecuted by gastronomic animals. Only then can we obtain the right to rule this world. We should also make this our goal. Chiwu Zhongshuan showed his naked ambition and looked straight at Elysian Son of Heaven. For this reason, I will eliminate all those who hinder me and those who disobey me. The implication of these words was already a declaration of war against the heads of state of other regions. This made Elysian Son of Heaven speechless for a while. In this world, there were many people who were full of ambition and wanted to make a move on other regions. However, Chiwu Zhongshuan was probably the only one who would be so straightforward about his intentions. Even in the Osaka region, I often hear that Tokyo's Elysian Son of Heaven is a very kind and peace-loving person, Chiwu Zhongshuan sneered. However, Lord Elysian Son of Heaven, please listen to my advice. You, who are unwilling to even see blood, are not suitable to be the ruler of this chaotic era. As a head of state, you are not qualified. Elysian Son of Heaven's slender body trembled violently. Instead of anger, there was sadness in her eyes. Obviously, Chiwu Zhongshuan's undisguised malicious words had really pierced the heart of this holy princess. When Chiwu Zhongshuan saw this scene, the corners of his mouth curved into a disdainful smile. Even the ruler of Tokyo was still too young after all. At this moment, Noah, who was standing behind Elysian Son of Heaven, suddenly spoke up. I heard that President Chiwu Zhongshuan has suffered many assassination attempts in the Osaka region due to excessive taxes, right? That's right. Chiwu Zhongshuan looked at Noah with a suspicious expression. Then what's the problem? Isn't that enough to explain the problem? Noah seemed to be talking to himself. He did not even look at Chiwu Zhongshuan. I don't know. In history, has there ever been a tyrant who did not care about the lives of his people and lasted until the end? What kind of problem is that? Chiwu Zhongshuan glared at Noah. The entire Osaka region is mine. I am also the one who is supporting the entire Osaka region. As long as I continue to support the Osaka region, those insects who can only hide in the dark will not be able to do anything to me. Without me, they will all die. In this chaotic era, only a true tyrant can rule the world. Chiwu Zhongshuan stood up and shouted exaggeratedly, pointing at Elysian Son of Heaven. And you, Elysian Son of Heaven, too much gentleness and kindness will only harm you. You will not be the tyrant of this chaotic world. There is no doubt about that. Elysian Son of Heaven wanted to say something, but Noah pressed on his shoulder. Then, Noah said indifferently. You are right. This kind-hearted princess is not suitable to be the ruler of this chaotic era. Elysian Son of Heaven stared blankly at Noah, as if he could not believe that he would say such a thing. Chiwu Zhongshuan revealed a victorious smile. However, his smile froze when he heard Noah's next sentence. Then, what about the era of peace? Chapter 123. Peaceful Era. The Holy Son of Heaven and Chiwu Zhongshuan were stunned. As a ruler, those who are unqualified are not the Holy Son of Heaven. Noah raised his eyes and looked at Chiwu Zhongshuan. The real unqualified ruler seems to be you, President Chiwu. Don't tell me you're trying to say that a ruler who knows how to conform to the will of the people is a truly qualified ruler. Chiwu Zhongshuan laughed disapprovingly. In the end, you're just a policeman. In this chaotic era, what can a guy who blindly conforms to the will of the people achieve? Didn't I tell you that if a chaotic era doesn't work, what about a peaceful era? Noah curled his lips and smiled. President Chi-Woo, you've just said that there's nothing wrong with thinking about the future of the world after all the protogut animals are banished. However, you're only thinking about how to become the ruler of the new era. Have you not considered what the world will become by then? Chiwu Zhongshuan stared at Noah without saying a word. You're right. The country that can take back its territory from the protogut animals the fastest is likely to be the overlord of the world after the protogut animals are expelled. However, when that time comes, without the protogut animals as an enemy, humans will usher in a peaceful era. Noah sneered. In the near future, the world will once again return to human rule, and the era of peace will descend. The citizens who have been oppressed by you and overtaxed by you will begin to recall that the world's rulers once had to comply with the will of the people. The people should also have their own rights. So, please tell me, Noah said somewhat uninterestedly. President Chiwu, even if you become the overlord of the world by then, what kind of ending will you usher in? Chiwu Zhongshuan's face sank bit by bit as he listened to Noah's words. In the end, it became extremely ugly. The Holy Son of Heaven also understood what Noah meant, and the light in his eyes slowly recovered. In front of the two regional rulers, Noah did not hesitate to mock Chiwu Zhongshuan. Let me tell you something. By then, the people will revolt. No matter how many times they will revolt in that peaceful era. As a result, the rulers who don't conform to the public will all be ousted and become real losers. I will not become a loser. Chiwu Zhongshuan raised his head abruptly and roared as if he could not bear it any longer. What right do you have to say that I will be the loser? Because I know you're just daydreaming. Noah looked at Chiwu Zhongshuan with pity. Chiwu Zhongshuan, you must understand that even if you can become the ruler of this chaotic era, you will still be eliminated when the era of peace arrives. If you are proud of what you are doing now as a qualified ruler, then let me be clear. Undoubtedly, I will tell you for free. Noah's voice was like a sharp arrow, piercing Chiwu Zhongshuan's heart. People like you can only hope that this chaotic era will continue endlessly. Otherwise, you are destined to be a loser. Only people like the Holy Son of Heaven, who yearn for peace, will be promoted to the position of ruler by the people who also yearn for peace. If you are a qualified ruler of the chaotic era, then the ruler of Tokyo will be a qualified ruler of the peaceful era as long as he survives until the arrival of peace. Chiwu Zhongshuan, you are not qualified to look down on the Holy Son of Heaven in Tokyo. Noah said indifferently. Because as long as the Holy Son of Heaven survives, he is destined to succeed. Even if you survive until the end, you are destined to fail. Shut up. Police. Chiwu Zhongshuan's eyes were red. He reached into the inner pocket of his suit and felt for a very small pistol. Gotcha. However, as soon as Chiwu Zhongshuan put his hand into the inner pocket of his suit, a gun suddenly appeared in front of him. The black muzzle directly met Chiwu Zhongshuan's eyes at a very close distance, causing Chiwu Zhongshuan's movements to freeze. President Noah. The Holy Son of Heaven finally realized what had happened. He stood up abruptly and grabbed Noah's hand. However, Noah was completely indifferent. He raised his own gun and aimed at Chiwu Zhongshuan in front of him. His eyes and expression were extremely calm. This made Chiwu Zhongshuan calm down. He let go of his hand that was in the inner pocket of his suit and looked at Noah contemptuously. Even if you're from the Tokyo region, you're pointing a gun at me. Unless the Tokyo region protects you at the cost of causing a war between the two regions, I can sentence you to death. As he said this, Chiwu Zhongshuan looked at Noah with more and more contempt. Do you understand? President Noah. The Holy Son of Heaven was also a little anxious. He held Noah's hand and kept gesturing for him to put down the gun. Unfortunately, Noah was still indifferent. He even curled the corners of his mouth, as if he was laughing. You still don't understand, Chiwu Zhongshuan. I really didn't expect you to have such a narrow view of the big picture. Does the Tendo Chrysanthemum Prime Minister really think that you are difficult to deal with? What did you say? Chiwu Zhongshuan's expression became ugly again. Say it again. I'll say it a few hundred times, but it's still the same. Chiwu Zhongshuan, you are really stupid to the extreme. Do you believe that if I kill you here now, the Osaka region won't have time to go to war with Tokyo? Noah said with a sigh. As a dictator, it's easy to provoke enemies. Chiwu Zhongshuan, there must be many people in the Osaka region who don't get along with you, but who are also ambitious, who have been eyeing your position, right? Chiwu Zhongshuan's expression changed instantly. If you die here, the result will be that in order to compete for the position you left behind, the people eyeing your position in the Osaka region will begin to attract their own supporters. Among them, the most effective way is to expose what you have done in the past, arouse the indignation of those who have been oppressed by you in the past, and increase their popularity. This time, it was Noah's turn to look at him with contempt. At that time, not only will I not cause a war between the two regions, but I will also be molded by those people as a hero who got rid of evil for the people. Do you understand? Bastard! Chiwu Zhongshuan's expression became distorted as if he had been stabbed in a sore spot. From the moment you embarked on the path of a dictator, you were destined to fail. Noah looked directly at Chiwu Zhongshuan. I can already imagine what kind of infamy you will leave in the history books in the future. Can you imagine? Mr. Ruler of the Osaka region. Bastard! 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 Chiwu Zhongshuan's body began to tremble. His gaze was fixed on Noah as if he wanted to poke two holes in his body. He was obviously extremely angry. President Noah. Elysian Son of Heaven finally spoke in a tough voice. I should start the meeting with President Chiwu. Noah took a deep look at Chiwu Zhongshuan and smiled. He put away his spear and stood behind Elysian Son of Heaven. Sage Tianzi quietly folded his hands in front of his suit, as if nothing had happened. He looked at Chiwu Zhongshuan calmly. President Chiwu, can we get to the point? Chiwu Zhongshuan knew that Sage Tianzi was giving him a way out. He took a few deep breaths, forced himself to calm down, and said expressionlessly. I'm sorry, President Sage Tianzi. I'm not feeling well today. Can we postpone the meeting for another day? I understand. Sage Tianzi nodded, not surprised at all. I look forward to the next conversation with you. Chiwu Zhongshuan stared coldly at Noah for a long time, then said this. I will not fail. After saying this, Chiwu Zhongshuan turned around and walked out without looking back. Sage Tianzi looked at Chiwu Zhongshuan's back until he disappeared from the scene. Noah looked in the direction that Chiwu Zhongshuan left with a thoughtful look in his eyes. Chapter 124. Night, on the limousine back to the holy residence, Elysian Son of Heaven, who was sitting opposite Noah, kept his hands crossed and placed on his knees elegantly. He looked out of the window with a melancholy expression. Seeing Elysian Son of Heaven like this, Noah sighed. Are you still thinking about Chiwu Zhongshuan? Elysian Son of Heaven slowly withdrew his gaze from the window and looked at Noah, shaking his head. I was just thinking about what kind of method I should use to get along with that person. Get along with Chiwu Zhongshuan. Noah looked at Elysian Son of Heaven, then laughed and waved his hand. Impossible, one of you is a typical idealist, the other is the most selfish individualist. No matter what, you won't get along. That's the truth, so I'm quite distressed. Elysian Son of Heaven looked at Noah with some admiration. If I had the confidence and vision like President Noah, who didn't back down even when facing the president of Chiwu Zhongshuan, I wouldn't need President Noah to stand up for me in today's meeting. Hearing this, Noah curled his lips and looked away. I only stood up because I was unhappy with that old bastard. I didn't mean to stand up for you. Is that so? Even Elysian Son of Heaven could feel that most of Noah's words were insincere, so he couldn't help but smile. I didn't expect President Noah to have such a cute side. What nonsense are you talking about? Noah glanced at Elysian Son of Heaven and warned. I'm not throwing a tantrum, and I don't have this so-called cute side. If you continue to make fun of me, I'll leave. I didn't mean to make fun of you. On the contrary, I really admire President Noah. Elysian Son of Heaven stopped smiling, and his beautiful face looked a little sad. Only today did I truly understand why Mr. Kikuchi Ching couldn't even deal with a commoner with no identity, background, status, or capital. You even had a vexed and sullen expression from time to time. You are truly formidable. Elysian Son of Heaven looked at Noah with a little sadness. I even think that if Tokyo was ruled by President Noah, it would be more prosperous than it is now. Stop joking. Noah frowned. Don't tell me that you've really lost your confidence because of that old man who only knows how to dream. I'm just telling the truth. Elysian Son of Heaven's tone started to become inexplicably anxious. It can be seen from today's incident with the president of Chi Wu. President Noah, you are a very talented person. Not only did you have the ability to operate Fairy Tale under the obstruction of Mr. Kikuchi Ching, but you also forced the president of Chi Wu to a point where he almost had no way out. In addition, you have a far-reaching view and a long-term view of the overall situation. If you can help me, the Tokyo area will definitely be more prosperous than it is now. I can imagine what kind of new scene Tokyo will be with your help. Elysian Son of Heaven clasped one hand in front of his chest and said excitedly. So, please, Mr. Noah, please come to my side and help me. Help me govern the Tokyo area. As soon as his voice fell, the entire limousine was filled with an extremely oppressive silence. Noah's expression had already returned to the most common calmness after guessing Elysian Son of Heaven's intention. He quietly looked at Elysian Son of Heaven without speaking. But it was this expression that made Elysian Son of Heaven understand Noah's thoughts. Why? Elysian Son of Heaven's voice was full of depression. Why are you unwilling to agree to my request? The reason is very simple. Noah raised his hand, supported his chin, and looked out of the window. I still haven't found a reason to protect Tokyo, to protect those who are only left with hatred and can even treat a group of children cruelly. Elysian Son of Heaven suddenly opened his mouth slightly, but in the end, he couldn't say anything. He closed his eyes and lowered his head. Elysian Son of Heaven knew that in fact, the way to change Noah's mind was simple, but also difficult. It was more difficult than Chi Wu Zhongshuan wanting to rule the world. Noah's fundamental purpose was to allow the cursed children to live like ordinary children. They would not be discriminated against, and they would be able to live a happy life. So, as long as Elysian Son of Heaven could do this, he believed that at that time, Noah would definitely not mind borrowing Elysian Son of Heaven's power. Unfortunately, this method was very easy to say, but to put it into practice, was it possible to achieve it? Perhaps, in the distant future, when the plundered generation that lost their loved ones to the primitive animals all died, the situation of the cursed children would become much better. However, as long as the primitive animals virus remained in the cursed children, and there was a possibility that the primitive animals could turn into monsters at any time, the cursed children would not be accepted by others. Because no one would want to get close to a person who could turn into a monster at any time. Even if there was no hatred, people would still have feelings for the cursed children. That was fear. Elysian Son of Heaven, who understood this, could only be silent. He didn't turn to Noah again, and his eyes revealed an extremely complicated struggle. Tap, tap, tap. Without knowing when, water droplets suddenly fell from the sky and hit the car window, causing a burst of soft and loud sound. It gradually drizzled outside, blurring the scenery outside the car window. Inside the car, the atmosphere between Noah and Elysian Son of Heaven had changed from the initial relaxed tranquility to a complete oppressive silence, and the night rain became irritating. And at that moment, Noah heard a voice all of a sudden. Buzz, 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 buzz. It was the sound of insects flapping and rubbing their wings. Aware of this strange sound, Noah's eyes slowly turned cold, and he reached out his hand to Elysian Son of Heaven, who was silent. Give me your hand. The sudden request made Elysian Son of Heaven directly stunned. Noah didn't even look at Elysian Son of Heaven, and he directly looked out of the car window, and the sense of existence around him became stronger. Elysian Son of Heaven, who reacted from Noah's actions, found something wrong, and his heart was also in his mouth. Elysian Son of Heaven silently put his lace-gloved hand on Noah's outstretched hand. Noah immediately held Elysian Son of Heaven's hand, but he didn't move, and looked out of the car. Outside the car window, in the dark night, there were many tall buildings. Other than a few aviation guidance lights emitting red light around the buildings, there was nothing out of the ordinary. At least, that was how Elysian Son of Heaven saw it. However, not only did Noah have abilities that were far superior to humans in all aspects, but he also had extraordinary senses that others didn't have. Therefore, Noah could feel. At the same time that the sound of insects flapping and rubbing wings was heard, the surrounding airflow also changed. Immediately, within the range of Noah's senses, a very familiar feeling rose. It was a feeling that was definitely not unfamiliar to Noah. The feeling when the cursed child released the virus in his body and released the power. Then, in the distance, near the top of a tall building, a flash of light suddenly appeared. Almost at the same time, Noah's body tensed up, and he pulled Elysian Son of Heaven into his arms. Bang! The next moment, the car window next to Elysian Son of Heaven's position suddenly exploded without warning. Screech! The car's sharp brakes suddenly sounded, and the body of the car suddenly slid sideways, like a spinning top, crazily spinning. Ah! Elysian Son of Heaven let out a cry, but he also understood what had happened. Sniper! The car, no, Elysian Son of Heaven himself, was sniped. Chapter 125. Screech! The limousine lost its balance and skidded sideways on the road, making a sharp braking sound that echoed through the rainy night. Ah! The driver was not prepared for this sudden danger at all. He desperately turned the steering wheel and screamed unbearably. Holy Son, who was sitting in the back seat, buried his head in Noah's arms. His body was nestled in Noah's arms, and his face was full of pain. He closed his eyes and groaned bitterly. In the entire limousine, Noah was the only one who maintained his balance and calmness even as the limousine slid sideways. He hugged Elysian Son and reached out his hand through the gap leading to the front seat to grab the driver's collar. Then, Noah spun around and kicked the top of the limousine with all his might. Bang! In the muffled sound, the roof of the limousine exploded from the inside out, creating a huge hole. Whoosh! In the next second, a figure jumped out of the limousine and shot out from the hole in the roof of the limousine. Bang! In an instant, the expensive limousine crashed into a hard wall in front of him without slowing down, smashing the front of the limousine into pieces. Dong! Then, the entire limousine exploded and turned into black iron in a hot flame. It was calcined at an extremely high temperature. Screech! At this moment, the cars that had been protecting the limousine all braked and stopped. Bodyguard Joren and the other Holy Son of Heaven guards rushed out of the cars, shouting meaninglessly as they rushed over. At the same time, Noah, who was holding Holy Son in one hand and the unconscious driver's collar in the other, landed steadily on the ground. His body was already wet from the rain. Looking up, Noah looked at the distant roof of the tall building where the red light had just flashed. Combined with the sniper attack here, it was not difficult to guess that the red light that flashed on the roof was the muzzle flame of the sniper rifle. In other words, the assassin who attacked Holy's son was on the roof of the building. Just as this thought rose in Noah's mind, the red light flashed again on the roof of the building. Gotcha! Almost at the same time, Noah pulled out his gun and closed his eyes. He pointed the gun in his hand in the direction of the tall building and pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang! In the sound of the gunshot, the black bullet cut through the sky, rubbing against the atmosphere and shooting toward the building. Along the path of the bullet, a sniper bullet was fired from the direction of the tall building. It flew straight from the direction of the bullet. The two bullets suddenly collided with each other fiercely. Clank! In the crisp sound, the scene of two bullets colliding with each other, which was impossible in reality, appeared in the air. The two bullets that collided with each other rebounded in different directions. This is a lie, right? On the top of a distant building, the girl holding an anti-tank sniper rifle clearly saw this scene through the scope. The dark red eyes of the cursed child, which was a typical phenomenon of releasing the power in the body, showed a strong shock. The building where the girl was at was more than a kilometer away from her target. To be able to snipe a target from a kilometer away, and with such accuracy, the girl's sniping ability was simply unbelievably strong. It was also because of this that the girl was highly valued by her instigator. Originally, the girl thought that she was the only person in the world who could do this. But now, the scene that appeared in front of the girl's eyes completely shattered this thought in her mind. Moreover, compared to her, the opponent's ability was obviously better. Not only did she also snipe from a kilometer away, but she also accurately neutralized the girl's sniper attack by canceling it out. This could no longer be described as 100% accuracy, but a real, godly skill. Bang! Just when the girl fell into a brief moment of shock, with the species factor of the protozoan virus in her body, the girl, who especially enhanced her vision and hearing, heard an extremely soft sound that was absolutely impossible for ordinary humans to hear. That was the sound of a gunshot. The girl's dark red pupils suddenly shrank, and a fatal sense of crisis surged in her heart, causing the girl to turn her head away without hesitation. The second bullet that came from the other side directly cut through the air, accurately hitting the scope of the sniper rifle that the young girl's eyes were still fixed on a second ago. Bang! The sniper rifle's scope in the girl's hand was directly penetrated by the bullet, and exploded into a pile of fragments. Bang! Not only that, after the bullet that was terrifying enough to match the anti-tank sniper rifle in the girl's hand exploded the scope, the force carried by the bullet directly shook the sniper rifle in the girl's hand away. Aw! The girl let out a small cry of pain. The sniper rifle in her hand was shaken away, and she was also flipped over by the impact of the force. She rolled a few times from the top of the tall building before coming to a stop. Ugh! The girl quickly got up from the ground. Ignoring her trembling hands from the shock, she picked up the sniper rifle not far away and rushed into the entrance of the tall building's roof as if she was escaping, and rushed into the stairs. Bang 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 bang. In that instant, 4 bullets with the power of the anti-tank sniper rifle pierced through the air in a sharp sonic boom, and landed heavily on the 4 positions of the path that the girl took when she rushed into the stairs, exploding 4 holes on it. If the young girl hadn't rushed to the staircase at the first moment, then the 4 bullets would have landed on the young girl's petite body. Ha! 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 At the top of the stairs, the girl holding the anti-tank sniper rifle leaned against the wall, gasping for air. Her back was already wet from the tension and crisis just now. Her crimson pupils were still filled with lingering fear, and the hand holding the anti-tank sniper rifle was still trembling. The girl looked outside the roof and saw the broken scope and the 4 holes on the ground. Her hand holding the rifle tightened. What a terrifying person! On the other side, Noah, who was holding a gun and using his excellent sensing ability to detect the position of the sniper on the roof of the tall building, fired all 6 bullets in his gun and stopped shooting. Slowly opening his eyes, Noah looked at the tall building, and his dark eyes narrowed slightly. That scent, if I'm not wrong, it must be the cursed child. Because the distance was too far, even with Noah's excellent sensing ability, he could not accurately identify the sniper's scent in the chaotic city. However, the feeling of power overflowing from the release of the protozoan virus in his body was indeed the aura of the cursed child. The sniper was a cursed child, Lord Elysium. Not far away, the group of people finally came to Noah's side. Elysium seemed to have not recovered from the panic. Her delicate body was trembling, and she tightly grasped Noah's clothes. Her face was a little pale. Noah patted Elysium's back, pressed on Elysium's slender and smooth shoulder, and gently pushed her into his arms. It's okay now, don't be afraid. Aha! Aha! Elysium reacted and gently nodded a few times, but her movements were very weak. Obviously, because of the series of crises just now, Elysium was a little exhausted. Noah Dole. Seeing the unusually weak Elysium in Noah's arms at this moment, Elysium's eyes widened slightly, and he was somewhat agitated. Hurry up and let go of Lord Elysium. Noah didn't even look at Elysium. He felt Elysium's trembling body in his arms, and he kept patting her back, waiting for her to calm down. Elysium's roar of jealousy was still ringing, and it didn't calm down for a long time. Chapter 126. Tokyo District 1, Holy Residence, here. Noah handed a cup of freshly brewed hot tea to Holy Son of Heaven, who was sitting on the sofa. Calm down. The Holy Son of Heaven seemed to feel embarrassed for being so scared, but he still reached out his hand and took the hot tea that Noah brewed. Thank you, but I've calmed down. Thank you for worrying. With that said, Holy Son of Heaven's performance did indeed return to the sacred and inviolable appearance of the past, which made Noah feel a little relieved. Sitting down on the sofa opposite Holy Son of Heaven, Noah folded his arms, and after a moment of silence, he asked, "Is this the first time you encountered an assassination?" Holy Son of Heaven first nodded, then thought for a moment and shook her head. "I haven't been in office for long. Although it's not that I haven't encountered unexpected situations in the past, it's the first time I was directly attacked." "Is that so?" Noah felt slightly relieved. Even if she was the ruler of the Tokyo area, Holy Son of Heaven was only a 16-year-old girl. It was natural for her to be afraid of being assassinated by unknown people. Seeing that Holy Son of Heaven could calm down so quickly and return to her original state, Noah was somewhat impressed by this girl's temperament. However, he still had to say what needed to be said. "Although it's a bit inappropriate to say this directly in front of you, now is not the time to care about that kind of thing." Noah pointed at his arm with his finger, as if he had given up on something, and sighed. "I have to say, Lord Holy Son of Heaven, your guards are all useless." Holding the cup full of hot tea, Holy Son of Heaven was in a state of speechlessness. Let's not talk about why our route back to the holy residence was exposed and why the snipers were ambushed there. Let's talk about the process of the ambush. Their performance was a bit incompetent. Noah made such a comment without holding back. They couldn't rush to the side of the target in the first time, couldn't organize effective countermeasures in the first time, couldn't arrange a retreat in the first time, and couldn't calm down in the first time. They looked like a panicked layman. "Lord Holy Son of Heaven, I'm really curious how you can live until now." Sage Son of Heaven lowered his head and listened quietly. When Noah stopped, he smiled bitterly. In the peaceful era of the past, the task of protecting the safety of VIPs was usually the job of the police. Now, although I have a guard team, it is still an immature organization that has been in operation for less than 10 years. Naturally, it is impossible for me to be that familiar with it. What the Holy Son of Heaven meant was that as a group of guards, they were still lacking in experience in protecting Zhuo Ren and the others. This was mainly because in the past, as the Holy Sun's bodyguards, they only existed as a wall to block the media. They didn't really have the opportunity to face assassinations and other dangers. As a result, this unbearable situation of the guards was created. Unfortunately, that was not enough to explain the problem. Putting aside the lack of experience, not only did they not reflect on the sniper incident after the incident, they even kept pushing the blame to each other. What's going on? Noah was getting a little impatient. Lord Holy Son of Heaven, you are not an idiot. I don't believe that you don't know the morals of your own guards. So, can you please not help them out of pure kindness? Sage Son of Heaven was speechless. Evidently, Noah had hit the nail on the head. However, there was a reason why Noah was so upset. After the sniper incident was resolved by Noah, Sage Son of Heaven regained his composure. The group of people rushed back to the holy residence and started a short discussion about the sniper incident. The focus of the discussion was naturally how Sage Son of Heaven's return route was known to the sniper and how he was ambushed. The plan for the Holy Son of Heaven's bodyguards was basically drawn up by Noah. It also included the details of the route. Therefore, only Noah, Sage Son of Heaven, and the other guards of the holy residence knew the route that Sage Son of Heaven would take. There was no doubt that the route had been leaked. Then, there was only one problem that could be explained. There was a traitor in the Holy Son of Heaven's bodyguards. After all, it was impossible for Sage Son of Heaven to leak the bodyguard plan that was closely related to his own safety. Therefore, it could only mean that there was a traitor in the holy residence. However, a group of brainless guards led by Zhuomeng intended to shift all the blame to Noah. The reason was that he was the one who knew the plan the best. They didn't know where to base it on. In the end, these people were naturally all blocked by Noah's understatement. If it wasn't for me, Sage Son of Heaven would have died under the first sniper bullet. Are you trying to say that I wanted to harm Sage Son of Heaven, so I leaked the bodyguard plan, and at the same time, I also tried to save the target's life from the hands of my own accomplices? This is completely meaningless. To Noah's surprise, when the rest of the guards had nothing to say, the bodyguard Zhuo Ren did not seem to be convinced at all. Therefore, after a period of reflection, the nature of the meeting changed completely. Bodyguard Zhuo of Heaven's bodyguards glared at Noah with resentment and stubbornness. At the same time, he used ridiculous excuses like, "You have to believe me," and "There is definitely something wrong with this guy," to convict Noah of a crime. In the end, even Sage Son of Heaven felt that bodyguard Zhuo of Heaven was being unreasonable. He took Noah back to his room. Of course, Noah only found out from bodyguard Zhuo that the room where he played the piano was Sage Son of Heaven's bedroom. Seeing that Sage Son of Heaven was silent, Noah couldn't help but rub his temples. When is the next meeting? Sage Son of Heaven was startled, then shook his head. It hasn't been decided yet. Is that so? Noah nodded calmly. The next meeting, I will redraft the bodyguard plan, but this time, I hope that only you and I know the entire plan. This. Sage Son of Heaven suddenly hesitated and said uncertainly. Do you mean that only the two of us will go to the next meeting? If he couldn't reveal the bodyguard plan to the others, it meant that he couldn't bring anyone else to the next meeting. Otherwise, the bodyguard plan would still be leaked. What's wrong? Noah looked straight at Sage Son of Heaven. Is there a problem? Sage Son of Heaven pondered for a while, then nodded heavily. I understand, President Noah and I will go to the next meeting. Only then did Noah's expression ease up a lot, and the atmosphere at the scene began to relax. President Noah. Sage Son of Heaven seemed to want to break away from the heavy topic. He smiled calmly and suddenly made a suggestion. Can I ask you to play a song for me? Play a song. Noah was stunned. Don't you know how to play the piano? I'm not very familiar with the piano. Sage Son of Heaven stood up from the sofa and walked to the front of the piano. He sat down and stroked the keys with his slender fingers. Although it's embarrassing to say this, the process of learning the piano wasn't very smooth, and my playing often wasn't very smooth either. I think I know why your playing isn't smooth. Noah inadvertently glanced at Sage Son of Heaven's hand on the piano keys, and then he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Your fingers are too hard on the keys, that will make the entire playing not smooth. With that, Noah walked behind Sage Son of Heaven, bent down, and put his hand on the back of Sage Son of Heaven's hand as if he was hugging him. Don't use too much strength, just use this amount of strength. However, Sage Son of Heaven didn't hear Noah's words. This was because when Noah bent down, Sage Son of Heaven's body stiffened, and a slight blush appeared on his face. Noah, who was completely used to being in close contact with girls, didn't notice the current situation and tilted his head in confusion. What's wrong? No. Nothing, then try according to what I said. Oh. Okay. Chapter 127. President. Xiaoshe walked into Noah's room with a pile of documents in his hands. Noah, who was sitting in front of his desk and drafting the security plan for the second meeting, looked up with a slightly helpless expression. Xiaoshe, you didn't knock or ring the doorbell, why did you just walk into my house? This is a small matter, you don't have to worry about it. Xiaoshe said lightly and ignored Noah. This is a small matter. He muttered, then walked in front of Noah and put the documents in his hands on the desk. President, during the Holy Sun sniper incident, the analysis of the sniper bullet taken from the scene is out. Hearing this, Noah gathered his spirit and flipped through the documents Xiaoshe brought. After analysis, the sniper bullet taken from the scene is a .50 caliber Browning heavy machine gun bullet. According to the president's description, the distance between the sniper's hiding spot and the Holy Sun's location is 991 meters. Seeing Noah flip through the analysis report, Xiaoshe also used his unique cold tone to summarize the main points of the analysis report. But when it came to the sniper's distance, Xiaoshe had a rare hesitation. However, President, are you sure that the sniper was really sniping from that tall building? Noah, who heard Xiaoshe's hesitation, looked up from the analysis report in his hands and looked at Xiaoshe. Is there a problem? No, there's no problem, but I'm very surprised. Xiaoshe shook his head and explained. President, do you know how high a sniper's requirements for the external environment and the sniper himself are when sniping? Noah recalled what he learned from the books and nodded. When a sniper is sniping, there are many factors that can affect the sniper's accuracy. For example, when a sniper bullet was traveling, the temperature, humidity, angle, and air pressure of the surrounding environment, as well as the arc of the bullet's trajectory, would all affect the final hit rate. If the sniper is sniped from a high place, the high-pressure wind will affect the sniper's vision, body, and even the bullet's trajectory. In addition, the sniper's heart is also beating, the sniper needs to breathe, and the muscle tissue may relax or tighten at any time, which causes the sniper's hand to shake and so on. The final conclusion is that the farther the sniper is, the more difficult it is to snipe. For example, if a sniper's sniping ability is assumed that every 100 meters the sniper's distance increases, the difficulty of hitting the target doubles. After 500 meters, every 100 meters the sniper's distance increases the difficulty of hitting the target exponentially. Therefore, after reaching a distance of 1 kilometer, if a sniper wanted to hit his target once, it could be said that he had a godly skill. 2 hits required luck. As for 3 hits, it was definitely because the sniper was blessed by the gods. According to the president's description, the sniper who assassinated Elysian Son of Heaven's first sniper hit is obviously 100%. Without the president, Elysian Son of Heaven would definitely be dead. Although the second sniper was neutralized by the president, without the president's intervention, Elysian Son of Heaven would still be hit. Xiaoshe tilted her head, and a puzzled expression appeared on her cute face. To be able to snipe from a distance of 991 meters with a 100% hit rate, President, is this sniper really an ordinary person? Noah did not answer Xiaoshi's question, but after thinking for a while, he asked. Then, if the opponent is the cursed child, can it explain why the sniper's sniping ability is so strong? Personally, I think that this will make the truth even more confusing. Xiaoshi opened her cute big eyes and looked straight at Noah. At the very least, I've never heard of any species that can increase a sniper's accuracy to 100%. That's true, Noah smiled bitterly, closed his eyes, pointed to his forehead with his finger, and suddenly said. Is there any news from Chiwu Zhongshuan? Chiwu Zhongshuan. Xiaoshi almost immediately understood the meaning of Noah's words, which made her blink her beautiful big eyes. President, do you suspect that the sniper was sent by Chiwu Zhongshuan? Not suspect, but sure. Noah curled his lips. After all, that old thief has already declared to Elysian Son of Heaven that he wants to rule the world and occupy all the territory of this country. Although Xiaoshi did not know the specific situation, she could roughly guess what was going on, so she immediately asked very obediently. Do you want to monitor Chiwu Zhongshuan? No need. Noah didn't even think about it and directly waved his hand to reject. Since that old guy dares to make such a blatant declaration, it means that he has long been prepared to be suspected. Even if we find someone to monitor him, we definitely won't be able to find out anything. Then, President. Xiaoshi raised her small face and her eyes met Noah's eyes. What are you going to do? What should I do? Noah raised his hand and supported his chin. His gaze seemed to be able to penetrate space and cast on a certain behind-the-scenes mastermind. The corners of his mouth slowly rose. Although the real target is not me, since we already know that it was the old thief who did it, then, if we don't give him a little reward, he really thinks that he can continue to dream. Xiaoshi's face was suddenly full of confusion, but seeing that Noah seemed to have some ideas, she didn't continue to ask and helped Noah organize the documents on the desk. At this time, a pleasant ringtone came from Noah's phone on the desk. Noah picked up the phone without looking back, but when he saw the name displayed on the caller ID, a look of surprise appeared on his face. President. Xiaoshi pulled on Noah's sleeve. What's wrong? Nothing. Noah patted Xiaoshi's head and then picked up the phone. The next moment, a listless, very soft voice sounded from the other end of the phone. Is it Big Brother? The people in Fairy Tale all called Noah the President. Except for the people in Fairy Tale, the rest of the people would basically just call Noah by his name, at most adding a prefix or a pet name like emoji. The only one who would call Noah Big Brother was a girl he recently met. Tina. Noah called out in a probing manner. It's me, Big Brother. Tina's soft voice had a little joy. Great, the Big Brother answered my call. I thought Big Brother would directly hang up or pretend not to know me. Why would I do that? Noah more or less felt a little powerless. Hey, Big Brother. Tina seemed to ignore Noah's question and said such a sentence. Next, I'm going to go shopping. And then. I'm a person. And then. I'm still a child. A child who can't resist even if some adults with special hobbies do bad things to him. A child who can't see the green light at any time, run across the road, and be run over by heavy iron vehicles. Ah, okay. Noah weakly interrupted Tina's overly euphemistic words. You just want me to take you shopping, right? I didn't say that. Tina replied. But if Big Brother must do this, I have no choice but to comply. After all, I'm just a child. I understand. Noah sighed out loud. Tell me the meeting place. On the other end of the phone, Tina suddenly let out a satisfied hum, making Noah feel helpless, but also couldn't help but have a doting feeling. Therefore, Noah didn't see it. On the side, Xiaoshi's wise big eyes flashed with an inexplicable light. Chapter 128. On the bustling street, Noah looked at a little girl who was happily humming a tune and walking in front of him. He couldn't help but smile bitterly as he looked at the little girl who was happily humming a tune and the other little girl who was walking beside her with a calm expression. Yanzhu, Xiaoshi, what are you two doing here? Yanzhu held Xiaoshi's hand and walked in front of him in large strides while calling out in high spirits. I'm here to play. Isn't this good? Xiaoshi was like a little adult, looking straight ahead. It's rare that the president is free before the second meeting of the Son of Heaven, and you want to go shopping. Can't you bring us along? It's not that you can't. Noah lowered his shoulders. It's just that I'm not alone. There will be another person coming with me later. Then introduce her to us. Xiaoshi said with a, it's not a problem look. Didn't the president say that even we have the right to make friends? That's true. Noah's mouth twitched. But I feel that it's not appropriate to use this sentence at this time. President, don't be awkward. Yanzhu twirled around in a lively manner. She was obviously in a good mood. It's more fun with more people. I won't mind. I'm not worried about whether you'll mind or not. Noah sighed softly. I'm worried that they'll mind. Now that we're here, are you going to chase us away? Xiaoshi glanced at Noah and said. We're children. You really did hear the contents of the phone call. Noah had no choice but to instruct him. Since you're here, remember, don't call me president. Don't expose our true identities. Got it. Only then did Xiaoshi show an obedient expression, but that was only because he had achieved his goal. We'll be careful. But... Yanzhu tilted her head, looking like a squirrel gnawing on a chestnut. It was very cute. If we don't call you president, then what should we call you? Well... Noah scratched his head. I don't have any special requirements. Just order whatever you want. Hearing this, Yanzhu and Xiaoshi's eyes lit up. Lord Husband. This was how Yanzhu addressed him. Rejected. Noah didn't even hesitate for a second and retorted. Master. This was what Xiaoshi had decided on. Do you want me to be treated as a scumbag? Noah almost knocked Xiaoshi on the head. Darling. This was the second time Yanzhu decided to address her. What's the difference between this and the first one? Noah raised his voice involuntarily. Dad. This was the second time Xiaoshi decided to call him that. You're determined to make me be treated as a scum, aren't you? Noah's legs went soft and he almost fell to the ground. Why can't you call me something more normal? In the end, Yanzhu and Xiaoshi seemed to be enjoying themselves. They used all sorts of names to challenge Noah's bottom line. No matter how much Noah loved these two girls, he had the urge to lock them up in a dark room for 2 days to reflect on their actions. Amidst their banter, the three of them arrived at the gathering place. At first glance, Noah saw the sleepy girl. Today, Tina didn't wear her sloppy pajamas. Instead, she wore a small dress and a small jacket. Her long silver blonde hair was neatly combed, and it shone beautifully under the sunlight. Unfortunately, Tina's adorable face still had a sleepy expression on it, as if she had just woken up. Her eyelids were blinking, and her little head was nodding, as if she had fallen asleep while standing. Seeing this, Noah face-bombed. Could it be that this girl has been playing games and watching TV all night? While he was talking to himself, Yanzhu and Xiaoshi had already arrived in front of Tina. They looked at Tina, who was nodding her little head as if she had fallen asleep. The two of them looked at each other and circled around Tina. Oh! There's someone like Rentaro who has mastered the special skill of sleeping standing up. Although I know people like this exist, this is the first time I've seen a real person like this. Won't she suddenly collapse while sleeping like this? Maybe if Yenju pokes her, she'll collapse. Looking at how Yenju was about to poke Tina, Noah hurriedly stepped forward to stop her. I say, it's very rude of you to treat someone you've just met. As if she only reacted to Noah's voice, the sleepy Tina slowly raised her head and rubbed her sleepy eyes. When she confirmed that it was Noah, a sleepy smile appeared on her face. Good morning, brother. The weather today is really good, it makes me feel especially energetic. Liar. Noah, Yenju, and Xiaoshi all replied at the same time without any hesitation. Only then did Tina notice Yenju and Xiaoshi. She stared blankly at the two of them. After a while, she was confused. Did brother kidnap two children on the way here? No matter how you think about it, you shouldn't have thought of this possibility first. What is your brain made of? Noah complained. Besides, I don't have the ability to kidnap children, do I? As soon as he said this, Yenju and Xiaoshi immediately looked at Noah strangely. You don't know how to kidnap children. Then what about the piles of children in a fairy tale? Let alone Yenju and Xiaoshi, if Mira and Lisana were here, they would definitely say something. After all, Mira and Lisana were kidnapped by Noah when they were young and entered fairy tale, all in all. Noah patted Yenju and Xiaoshi's little heads and pushed them forward a step. You two, introduce yourselves. I'm called Lan Yuan Yenju. Yenju was the first to raise her hand. Then, she suddenly turned around and hugged Noah. I'm his fiancé. Noah staggered and couldn't stand still. However, this wasn't the end. I'm called Qinsho Xiaoshi. Xiaoshi said with an icy expression. Then, he hugged Noah from the other side, forming a symmetrical position with Yenju. I'm also his fiancé. Noah looked up at the sky. In a way, he had already given up on explaining. As for Tina, her mouth was slightly agape as she stared blankly at the blissful Yenju, the expressionless Xiaoshi, and the speechless Noah. After a long while, a silly smile appeared on her face. Big brother is really amazing. Is this the only conclusion you've come to? Noah didn't have the strength to retort. I'm just once again convinced of Big Brother's gentleness. Tina still appeared to be in a daze, but the smile on her face didn't seem as fake as it used to be. If you don't have a truly gentle heart, you won't be able to make so many children like Big Brother. That's right, that's right. Yenju immediately nodded in agreement. Then, she jumped in front of Tina and put her hands on Tina's shoulders as if she had met a bosom friend. I've decided, they'll be my friend from now on. F.O., friend. Tina was stunned. It was as if she couldn't believe that someone would say such a thing to her. I'll be Ru Tina then. Before Tina could react, Yenju patted her flat chest with a haughty expression. Let this concubine take you shopping. Then, Yenju grabbed Tina, who couldn't react in time, and ran off into the distance with a giggle. Wait! Noah and Xiaoshi were startled and hurriedly chased after them. The four of them disappeared into the crowd together, creating a cacophony of laughter that lasted for a long time. Chapter 129. Women were able to show enthusiasm that was completely different from usual when they were shopping. Noah had heard this from other people more than once, and he had also seen it in books more than once. However, it wasn't until today that Noah realized what kind of level the so-called passion that was completely different from usual had reached. 5 hours. For a full 5 hours, with Noah as the leader, Yenju, Xiaoshi, and Hina, the 3 10-year-old girls, did not rest for even a second. And in these 5 hours, they went to countless places. clothing store, jewelry store, jewelry store, supermarket, shopping center, game center. In these places, as long as they saw them while shopping, Yenju would happily lead everyone to run, using the most physically exhausting way to play for 5 hours. In the end, the four of them walked through the entire commercial street. This was the incident that allowed Noah to clearly understand the true meaning of women's enthusiasm for shopping is completely different from usual. Originally, even if he went shopping with 3 little girls who were only about 10 years old, with the ability of the 3 little girls, there shouldn't be much that they could buy even if they went through the entire commercial street. Unfortunately, these 3 little girls around the age of 10 were clearly not ordinary little girls. First of all, Yenju was an initiator. Ever since she partnered with Rintaro and joined the Tentong Civilian Guard Company, Yenju has been receiving an excessive amount of pocket money from the Tentong Civilian Guard Company in the form of employment. Compared to a child, Yenju has received an excessive amount of pocket money from the company. Therefore, even if there was no way to squander as much as she wanted, Yenju's purchasing power was still enough to buy everything she liked. If the 2 poor bastards, Mugging and Rintaro, saw Yenju squandering money like this, they would probably faint from fright. Furthermore, although Xiaoshi currently had no plans to continue using the identity of an initiator to form a police partnership with other people, he basically did not receive any pocket money from the Directorate General who treated the initiator as a tool. However, after joining Fairy Tail, Xiaoshi's net worth had become much richer than the average child. There was no other way. Xiaoshi, who was calm and collected, had sufficient knowledge and wisdom, and had an IQ of over 210, helped Noah too much. If a Fairy Tail was described as a large company, and Noah was described as the chairman of this large company, then Xiaoshi was equivalent to a capable secretary who took care of the chairman's daily life. She really helped Noah solve a lot of problems. For such a meritorious person, Noah could not give Xiaoshi a sufficient salary. Therefore, Xiaoshi became a little rich woman who was richer than Yenju. As for Hina, although Noah did not know what Hina's background was, he was fully aware of Hina's big nerves. Speaking of which, someone who looked like she was about to fall asleep and casually threw a pile of expensive clothes into the river, would her nerves not be big? Therefore, Noah sincerely felt that Hina was very likely a rich young lady who escaped from some rich family, and did not care about these little things. Maybe that was the case. Just like this, as if he was the bodyguard of 3 rich kids, Noah accompanied Yenju, Xiaoshi, and Hina for almost half a day. Compared to himself, it was a rather interesting and uncomfortable day. Phew. Taking advantage of the time when the girls ran into an underwear store, Noah quietly left, and sat on a bench in a small stall opposite the store. He held a bottle of fruit juice that he bought from the stall, and took a sip while breathing heavily. Undoubtedly, I did not use much energy, why do I still feel tired? Just as he said this, a soft and lazy voice came from beside Noah. So Big Brother was hiding in a place like this. Noah was slightly surprised, and after he recognized who it was from the voice, his shoulders slumped. How did you find me so quickly? Hina sat beside Noah without him noticing, and after hearing Noah's words, she used her finger to touch her chin and laughed foolishly. I followed Big Brother's scent to find you. Hee. Noah laughed dryly. Do you think I would believe that you have mastered this kind of special skill? That. Hina hesitated for a moment and carefully answered. Because of love. Even you are hesitating about the answer, can you please not say it out loud like it is a matter of course? Noah felt even more tired, and raised the bottle of fruit juice in front of Hina, and asked. Are you thirsty? Do you want a sip? Have a sip. Hina stared blankly at the bottle of fruit juice that Noah raised in front of her, or more accurately, the bottle of fruit juice. After a while, her cheeks turned red, and her eyes sparkled. Indirect kiss, Noah did not clearly hear Hina's mumbling. What did you say? Nothing. Hina smiled inexplicably happily, and took the fruit juice from Noah's hand. Thank you, big brother. However, just as she took the fruit juice, Hina's hand seemed to have slipped, and the fruit juice in her hand slipped and fell to the ground. Ah, Pa! Hina just let out a small cry of surprise, and a hand suddenly reached out from the side, and caught the fruit juice that fell to the ground. Hina opened her sleepy eyes, and slowly looked at Noah, who reached out to catch the fruit juice with a bitter smile on his face, and blinked her eyes. Big brother, this bottle of fruit juice seems to have escaped from my hand. Why didn't you first consider that you didn't hold it properly? Noah was almost defeated by this sleepy girl, and he could only raise the fruit juice and feed it to Hina's mouth. A look of surprise flashed across Tina's face for a split second before a blissful expression appeared on her face. She took a sip of her juice, and just as Noah was about to move the opening of the juice bottle away, she leaned forward on her own accord. More. Looking at Hina, who leaned forward with half her body, closed her eyes, and opened her mouth slightly, like a baby bird begging for food, Noah could not think of a reason to refuse. So, when Noah came back to his senses, the fruit juice in the fruit juice bottle in his hand had already been finished by Hina. Hina, who used her sleeve to casually wipe her mouth, said with a sigh. Today was a very happy day. Hearing the same words that Hina said when they first met, Noah did not know why, but he was very concerned about it. Don't say it like you didn't have a happy day. Noah could not help but say this. You can also be with your friends, right? Friends. Hina was silent, and then she shook her head. I don't have any friends. What are you talking about? Noah frowned, and then relaxed. Didn't Yenju and Xiaoshi say that they want to be your friends? Yenju and Xiaoshi. Hina looked at the store across the street, and the smile on her face began to fade. No. Noah was stunned. Yenju and Xiaoshi are good kids. At this moment, Hina's expression was a little sad. But I am a bad kid. Silence suddenly fell. Ring, ring, ring. At this moment, a loud ringtone came from Hina's pocket, and Hina's expression froze. She hurriedly took out her phone, hung up the phone, and jumped down from the bench. Before Noah had a chance to react, Tina had already turned around. Sorry, big brother, I have to go. After saying this, Tina ran out of the room. Wait. For some reason, Noah subconsciously called out to Hina. Hina stopped and turned around, and her face showed a very distant smile that could not be ignored. I hope to see you again, big brother. After saying this, Hina turned around and rushed into the crowd. Noah stood up and looked in the direction that Hina disappeared, and an indescribable feeling emerged in his heart. Intuition told Noah. The time to meet Hina again will come soon. Chapter 130. A Bad Child. On the way back to Fairy Tale, Noah's mind was filled with Tina's matter. Even if no one specifically reminded him, and Tina did not specifically tell Noah anything, Noah could faintly feel that something was wrong with Tina. This child seems to be someone with a lot of stories. They had only met twice, and Tina was a very strange person in all aspects, but Noah just couldn't help but feel an inexplicable sense of concern for Tina. It was not that he was curious, but Noah really wanted to know what secrets this little girl who seemed to be sleep-deprived all day long had. It was just that Noah always had a feeling. If he did not care about this mysterious little girl, he would definitely miss something. It was because of this feeling that Noah was very concerned about Tina's matter. Although it was just a feeling, Noah trusted his own feelings very much. Not to mention other things, Noah's superhuman senses, in fact, in the end, could be considered as a feeling similar to a sixth sense. Moreover, before coming to this world, Noah had inexplicably trusted his own feelings more than once, and in the end, Noah's feelings did not disappoint him. Therefore, Noah felt that it was better for him to pay a little attention to this matter. The next time we meet, I'll ask a little bit of questions. After making up his mind, Noah quickened his pace and rushed in the direction of Fairy Tale. Under Yen Zhu's suggestion, Xia sure seemed to want to take a look at the place where Yen Zhu worked, which was the location of Tiantong's Civil Guard Company. Therefore, the two of them did not follow Noah back. After entering the outer area, Noah walked alone in the surroundings full of ruins and decayed buildings, which would make timid people tremble in fear. With clear footsteps, he rushed forward step by step. Da! 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 The sky suddenly darkened, and thick layers of dark clouds filled the air, and small drops of rain fell. If it were an ordinary person, perhaps he would have started to look for a place to take shelter from the rain in a panic. However, Noah was still walking in the rain as if nothing had happened. He didn't care about his wet body at all. After all, unlike normal people, Noah had once spent a full 4 years in the deep mountains and forests in order to fully control Crush. At that time, whether it was windy or rainy, Noah would still persevere in his training every day. Moreover, he had not been sick for a long time, so over time, as long as the rain was not too heavy, Noah would almost never deliberately avoid it. As for the problem with his clothes, he could just go back and wash it. Any problem that could be solved was not a problem. Ignoring his wet hair and clothes, Noah continued to walk in the direction of Fairy Tale. The sound of his footsteps had long been drowned out by the sound of the rain, and in the surroundings, only the sound of the rain continued to reverberate. However, Noah suddenly stopped in his tracks amidst the sound of the rain. He slowly lifted his head from the rain, and his dark and deep eyes gradually narrowed. Although it was very faint, Noah still heard a strange sound in the noisy sound of the rain. Wang! Wang wang wang! After this kind of sound entered Noah's ears, Noah immediately found the same sound in his memory. Previously, when the Holy Son of Heaven was ambushed, Noah had heard this sound a while ago. Xiao! Just after Noah heard the sound that was like a bug flapping its wings, in the rain, a faint sharp sound broke through the air, from far to near, from soft to loud, and also into Noah's ears. Almost at the same time, Noah's gradually focused eyes flashed with a fierce light, and without hesitation, he brushed his back, pulled out his gun, turned around, swung his hand, and fiercely slammed it to the side. Quang! Amidst a loud and clear collision sound, the body of the gun that Noah swung to his side fiercely collided with a bullet that pierced through the air. Dazzling sparks were ignited and a powerful shockwave was sent out. Clang! Immediately after, the powerful bullet was directly deflected by the gun body in Noah's hand, and disappeared into the rain. In this situation, as long as one was not stupid, one would be able to understand what had happened. After the Holy Son of Heaven's ambush, this time, it was Noah's turn to be ambushed. Moreover, based on the current situation, without a doubt, the sniper was the cursed child who had ambushed the Holy Son of Heaven last time. Noah first closed his eyes and slightly sensed the surroundings. After a while, he suddenly turned his head and looked in one direction. There was a tall building that looked very old and had burn marks everywhere. It was obvious that no one lived in it, standing in the rain. Surrounding it were 2 tall buildings of the same size, forming a triangle, and supporting each other. Noah's excellent sensing ability told him that the sniper was on the roof of one of the 3 tall buildings that stood in a triangle formation. The next moment, Noah saw a red flash on the roof of the tall building, which also proved that Noah's sensing ability was accurate. That was the muzzle flare. Whoosh! In the curtain of rain, the sharp sound of something breaking through the air, from far to near, and from loud to loud, resounded once again. But this time, Noah did not use the method of meeting force with force to resolve the attack. Instead, he lowered his body, stomped his feet on the ground, and shot out like a rocket launcher, turning into a shadow. Against the rain, he shot toward the tall building. Ping dash. Almost at the moment when Noah rushed out, the place where Noah was originally at suddenly exploded, and a large hole was dug out by the anti-tank sniper bullet. In the wind pressure and rain that made people unable to open their eyes, Noah seemed to have turned into a fleeting shadow. With extremely agile movements, he narrowly avoided the obstacles in front of him at an astonishing speed, and with a whirlwind, he passed through the ruins. The tall building where the sniper was at was rapidly becoming bigger in Noah's vision. At this time, the muzzle flare on the roof of the tall building once again flashed by. Ping dash. Noah stomped his left foot heavily, causing the ground to crack. His body spun like a top as he dodged to the side at an extremely fast speed. Ping dash. The powerful sniper bullet made a sharp friction sound, and pierced through the ground there. Noah did not stop his body, and suddenly stomped his right foot, and dodged to the other side. Ping, 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 ping dash. Suddenly, a fierce sniper bullet pierced through the sky, and frequently fell in the place where Noah was a second ago. In the sound of explosion, the ground was blasted open one after another. Noah moved in a Z shape, and with a speed that could barely be seen, he nimbly dodged the incoming sniper bullets while approaching the tall building. At this time, Noah's heart gradually had a trace of astonishment. At this time, Noah's speed had already exceeded the speed that the human eye could capture. Logically, if the enemy was a sniper, he should have been anxious because he could not capture Noah's figure and position, but this sniper could accurately capture Noah's figure and shoot. This level of sniping ability, as Xiaosher said, was not something that ordinary people or even the cursed child could do. If a sniper with this level of sniping ability was always active in the dark, not to mention Noah, the life of the Holy Sun would be completely unguaranteed. I must take her down. Noah's eyes gradually became cold, and he looked up, looking at the tall building that was getting bigger and bigger in his field of vision, and the muzzle flashes of the sniper rifle constantly flashed on the roof of the building. The next moment, he suddenly stopped his footsteps and stopped. Immediately, a storm like magic burst out from Noah's body, and turned into a shock wave, blowing in all directions. Shatter dash. With a cold shout, Noah suddenly raised a hand, clenched his fist, bent his body, and heavily punched the ground. Boom! In a corner of the Tokyo area, a thunderous noise resounded throughout the sky. Chapter 131. It was only for a short moment. Only for a short moment, more than 50% of the people in the Tokyo area witnessed the light beam. It was a bright light beam that rose into the sky as if it could directly penetrate the sky. Dong! When the resplendent pillar of light disappeared, an earth-shattering sound reverberated through the skies of the entire Tokyo region. The sound reverberated through the air, causing the eardrums of many people in the Tokyo region to buzz as they cried out in pain. Rumble. Immediately, the ground shook violently, causing most of the residents in the Tokyo area who had not yet reacted to the brilliant light beam and the amazing noise, and it caused a lot of commotion. Originally, in this world, because of the primitive animals, humans lived a desperate life where they could die almost at any time. Now, the sudden strange phenomenon naturally made the people who were already exhausted to live abnormally frightened. They all thought that the end of the world was coming, and they were panicking. Fortunately, although the earthquake was violent, it did not cause casualties, and the duration was very short. In less than a minute, it stopped and returned to silence. The residents in the Tokyo area were panicking in every corner, causing a chaotic noise that could not be calmed down for a long time. At the same time, in one of the corners of District 39 outside Tokyo, gravel of moderate size fell from the air into the billowing smoke and dust, inciting a series of crashing sounds. Hoo! A gust of wind blew from a distance, taking away the smoke and dust here, exposing the scene in the smoke and dust to the air. Unfortunately, the scene exposed to the air was not so beautiful, and it could even be said to be bad. It was a huge pit with a radius of more than 500 meters, and there were countless large and small rocks rolling in it. If someone was at the scene, they could faintly see from this huge pit that among the rolling rocks, many ruins that should have stood here were completely turned into pieces of debris and mixed with the rubble in the huge pit. Plumes of smoke and dust still lingered in the huge pit, gradually dissipating with the wind. All that was left was a huge pit filled with rubble, the remains of buildings, and the remains of various items. It was as if it had been there since the beginning. If one looked carefully, one could find that in this huge messy pit, there was a small place that remained unchanged. In the center of the huge pit full of rubble, there was a place that could only accommodate one person standing. The ground there was still intact. With the intact ground that could only allow one person to stand as the center, the surrounding area was filled with rubble and debris of buildings and objects that seemed to have just collapsed. It was as if a powerful bomb had exploded, causing one to be shocked. In the only place that was still intact and could only accommodate one person, Noah remained kneeling on one knee and punching the ground with his fist. The magical power that surged around him like a white mist retracted back into his body bit by bit, returning everything to a peaceful state. Noah raised his eyes and looked around. Looking at the huge crater that was filled with rubble and the remains of buildings, he furrowed his brows slightly. Could it be that I've gone too far? Although he said this, Noah still stood up. The expression on his face did not change in the slightest because of the shocking scene that he had created. After all, this was the outer area. Except for the people living in Fairy Tale, it was basically impossible for anyone to be here. Even if it was completely destroyed, it would not cause any casualties. Secondly, after learning Crush 5 years ago, Noah would occasionally cause some damage. He was already used to seeing this kind of scene. In this kind of situation, Noah directly raised his head and cast his gaze to the front. The 3 tall buildings that should have stood there in a triangular shape had already disappeared. Under Noah's crush, they had turned into ruins and were still collapsing. Tightening the grip on the gun in his hand, Noah leaped and rushed into the sky. His body was like a phantom in the air. With a perfect parabola as a trajectory, he flew towards the ruins. He landed in front of the ruins, raised his foot, and walked into the ruins. Pieces of gravel were still falling from the broken walls, causing the crisp sound of collision to linger in the ruins of the tall buildings. Noah did not observe the surroundings. Instead, he relied on his extraordinary sensing ability to walk step by step to a position in the ruins. He had already sensed it. There, a weak presence was like a lone wolf hiding in the grass waiting for the opportunity to sneak attack. It was lurking there, and it was even faintly discernible. Some of the rapid breathing was undulating there. In more than a year, using his body and the strengthening of the gastronomic virus, Noah not only improved his physical strength, but also his vision, hearing, and so on. Because of the gastronomic virus and the species factor that the virus carried, Noah had also improved. Therefore, even if there was a short distance between them, Noah could still detect the other party's breathing and movements that were so subtle that they could not be detected. Moreover, although Noah deliberately held back when he used Crush, only destroying the environment and not targeting the sniper himself, falling from the top of a skyscraper of at least 50 floors, even if the other party was a cursed child, he should have more or less suffered some external injuries. He could tell from the other party's somewhat rapid breathing that he could not suppress. Therefore, Noah simply stopped and looked straight at the place where the sniper was, in the direction of a pile of gravel that could hide someone. "There's no point in continuing to play, come out." Noah's voice echoed clearly in the surroundings, lingering in the ruins. However, he did not know if it was Noah's illusion. Noah felt that when he spoke, the sniper hiding in the pile of gravel not far away seemed to have become more rapid, and even his breathing became chaotic. That feeling was as if the other party suddenly panicked or was shocked. Not long after, on the side of the pile of gravel, a small black shadow walked out. The crimson eyes and face that represented the power and identity of the cursed child were exposed together in Noah's eyes. In that instant, not only the owner of the crimson eyes, even Noah, who had always been calm and composed, had his pupils constricted. An uncontrollable fluctuation appeared in his eyes. The person who appeared from the pile of gravel was a little girl of about 10 years old. A 10-year-old girl wearing a one-piece dress, with a pair of crimson eyes, and holding an anti-tank sniper rifle in her hand. Of course, this was not the reason why Noah, who was good at controlling his emotions, could not help but be a little shaken. What really made Noah waver was the conspicuous long silver blonde hair that reached her shoulders and the pretty face that should be half asleep and half awake, but at the moment, it was as cold as ice. Noah personally wiped the sweat on that face during the day because the owner was tired while shopping. And the name of the owner of that face, Noah also clearly remembered it. Tina. Looking at Tina, who was also unable to maintain her calm, and her little face was full of confusion and uncertainty, Noah was in a trance for a moment, and his voice was as if it was squeezed out from his throat, and it was hoarse. "So, it's you, brother." Tina held the anti-tank sniper rifle and stepped back step by step. The expression on her face fully expressed her resistance to reality. You are the president of Fairy Tale, Noah Doria. Why? Why is it you? Obviously, Tina did not know that the president of Fairy Tale, who she wanted to kill, was Noah. Rather, it could be said that Noah had intended to conceal his identity from the start. And just like Noah, Tina also deliberately concealed her identity. She hid her identity as the murderer of the Holy Sun sniper incident. Goo! There was a muffled sound in her throat, and Tina did not hesitate to throw away the anti-tank sniper rifle in her hand and rushed out of the ruins as if she was escaping. Wait! Noah suppressed the emotions in his heart and rushed out. Chapter 132. Tina's tiny figure dashed out from the ruins of the tall building that was surrounded by rubble of various sizes. Her crimson eyes were filled with frenzy. Why? 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 At this moment, all of the emotions in Tina's heart converged into these three words, and they continued to surge and surge. If possible, Tina hoped that this was just a huge joke. Unfortunately, a familiar voice sounded from behind her, mercilessly pulling her back to reality. Wait! Following the voice, a figure that was many times faster than Tina dashed out from the other side of the ruins. The distance between them was closing at a rate visible to the naked eye. Do you think you can escape? Tina. Tina bit her lips and dashed out of the ruins without looking back. However, if she continued like this, it was only a matter of time before she was caught. Thus, Tina abruptly waved her hand, and as if she were tossing something, she hurled 3 palm-sized spherical objects into the air. Buzz buzz buzz. The palm-sized spherical object made a sound similar to that of a bug flapping its wings. A red light flashed from its body as if it had eyes, and it flew behind Tina. That is. Noah, who saw this scene, was stunned. After hearing the sound of insects flapping their wings, he immediately understood. The strange sound that was produced before the start of both the previous and current sniping was caused by these things. In other words, during the sniping against the Holy Son of Heaven and the sniping against Noah, these spherical objects appeared at the scene. And they were definitely not too far away. After the 3 spherical objects were thrown out by Tina, they flew towards him as nimbly as humans. Most likely, Tina was controlling them in some way. When she was sniping, she was also controlling them to get closer to the target. On top of that, both times Tina had performed godly sniping from a kilometer away, Noah had a conjecture in his heart. Is it because of these things that Tina's sniping ability is so terrifying? This question could not be answered for the time being. Because the three spherical objects that looked like crows pouncing on their prey drew 3 arcs and rushed in front of Noah. Just as Noah raised his gun and was about to shoot them down, the red light that depicted an eye-like pattern on the 3 spherical objects suddenly sounded like a countdown bomb. After a few DD sounds, they suddenly exploded. Bang! Scorching flames and smoke suddenly covered Noah's figure. The explosion also set off a shockwave, blowing the surrounding rubble and broken wall fragments in all directions like bullets. For a moment, Tina's footsteps paused for a moment, but after a while, she recovered and continued to run as if she was escaping. Unfortunately, this was the end of it. Following the sound of tearing through the air, a figure burst forth from within the flames behind Tina. His body was shrouded in dense flames, and he was like a flaming meteor as he hurtled through the air. In the blink of an eye, he had already brushed past Tina's side and was now directly in front of her. Tina only felt a hot wind blowing past her side, then, in a blur, Noah's figure, who was unscathed and only had some light smoke, was imprinted in her eyes. Therefore, Tina also saw it clearly. Standing in front of her, facing her, Noah, who seemed to be waiting for her to go over, had a face full of persistence and perseverance. That expression told Tina. If she didn't make it clear, Noah wouldn't let her leave. This made Tina, who wanted to escape from reality, put on an expression as if she was about to cry, and she let out a hysterical scream. Go away! While screaming as if she couldn't accept it, Tina also pulled out a sharp dagger and rushed in the direction of Noah. Noah looked at Tina's gradually approaching figure and stood there quietly, motionless. Then, Tina didn't even have the slightest thought of aiming, and she randomly stabbed the dagger in her hand at Noah. The sharp dagger flashed in an arc and swept past Noah's eyes. Immediately, the distance between the two was reduced to 0. Clang! The next moment, the dagger spun wildly, flew into the sky, and fell into the ruins full of rubble. Ugh! Tina's hand hurt, and the dagger flew out of her hand. At the same time, she also seemed to have been hit by something and took a few steps back. Gotcha! Before Tina could react, a mechanical sound was heard, and a gun was placed in front of Tina and pointed in between Tina's eyebrows. Tina's body froze on the spot. The muzzle of the gun in front of Tina was less than 5 centimeters away from Tina's eyebrows. Even if Tina was the cursed child, at such a close distance, it was impossible for her to dodge a bullet fired from a gun, even if it was a normal gun. What's more, the gun in Noah's hand was not a normal gun, but a modified revolver that was specifically enhanced for power and output. This time, she was a general. Tina stared blankly at Noah, who was standing in front of her with a modified revolver pointed at her eyebrows. Her body seemed to have lost all strength, and she slowly fell to the ground full of rubble. A sad smile appeared on her pale face. Big Brother is really amazing. This was not the first time Noah had heard Tina say these words. However, this time, this sentence caused an indescribable feeling to surge in Noah's heart. He took a deep breath and looked into Tina's eyes. Why do you want to assassinate the Holy Son of Heaven? Although there were countless questions in his heart, those questions were nothing compared to this. Because, it was precisely because of this question that Noah and Tina became enemies. Because. Tina smiled as if she had given up, but there was an indescribable bitterness in her smile. Because, this is Master's order. Master's order. Noah couldn't help but tighten his grip on the gun as he stared at Tina, who was sitting in front of him. Speaking of which, I haven't seriously introduced myself to Big Brother yet. Tina raised her head. Her expression was no longer the half-asleep half-awake look from before. Instead, it was like a bird of prey staring at its prey in the night. It was incomparably fierce. I'm an owl-type initiator, a mechanized soldier of, next, ranked 98th by IP Tina Sprout. It was just a short sentence, but the information it brought to Noah was immeasurable. An owl-type, initiator. A mechanized soldier of, next. 98th by IP. These three pieces of information completely revealed Tina's identity. What Noah could find out was that Tina was not only a cursed child, but also an initiator who partnered with the police. Her IP was ranked in the top 100 by IP. As for what next was, Noah didn't know. However, the term mechanized soldier was very clear to Noah. In other words, not only was Tina an initiator, ranked in the top 100 by IP, but she was also a mechanized soldier like Leech's Shadow Ian that was modified by human scientists. While being a cursed child, Tina also had the ability of a mechanized soldier. No wonder she could squeeze into the top 100 by IP. However, this also made Noah understand. He probably wouldn't be able to get anything out of Tina. Looks like you've figured it out, big brother. I want to kill the holy heavenly disciple on the orders of my master, who is my partner and the one who modified me. You won't be able to find out who the mastermind is as I don't know who gave the order to my master. I'm just a tool. Tina lowered her head as her hollow voice sounded. Big brother, please kill me. The scene was dead silent. Looking at Tina who lowered her head with a hollow look in her eyes, Noah's eyes became silent as he slowly pulled the trigger of the gun in his hand. Bang! The gunshot was heard for a long time. Chapter 133. Tokyo District 1, Seiju. In a conference room, the top officials in the Tokyo area gathered together to prepare for a meeting. Seiju sat at the head of the long rectangular table with his hands folded on his lap. There was no expression on his face as he opened his mouth. I believe everyone has received the report of the strange phenomenon that just happened in the Tokyo area, right? The Elysian Emperor's question exposed the main topic of this meeting. An official who was further away from the Holy Son of Heaven stood up and saluted in the direction of the Holy Son of Heaven. Lord Seiju, the panic of the people has been temporarily suppressed, but the media seems to have begun to send people to the scene of the strange phenomenon. It won't be long before some news appears in the news channels. Thank you for your hard work. Seiju first encouraged his subordinates, then asked. What about the investigation report? It's still in progress. An official quickly answered Seiju's question. According to analysis, the strange phenomenon that caused the earthquake in the entire Tokyo area seems to be emitted from the outer area. Now, the investigation team has gone to the outer area and should get the news faster than the media. Hearing this, Seiju secretly breathed a sigh of relief, and some of the uneasiness in his heart eased a lot. The strange phenomenon that happened in the Tokyo area, the bright beam of light that soared into the sky for a short moment, was witnessed by many people. What kind of phenomenon is that? If it is not clear, in this turbulent era, it will definitely cause a lot of panic. In fact, after the strange phenomenon occurred, followed by a moderate earthquake in the Tokyo area, many places were shouting, "The end of the world." If such a sound is not stopped in time, it will definitely cause great panic, and the entire Tokyo area will be turbulent. Seiju was actually a little uneasy. After all, such a phenomenon can't be said to not be the end of the world, or the precursor of the end of the Tokyo area. Therefore, the truth of the phenomenon must be found as soon as possible. If it is a simple natural phenomenon, then it will be leaked to calm the hearts of the residents in the Tokyo area. If it is a precursor of a phenomenon that will lead to a disaster, then it must be investigated as soon as possible to find the right medicine and discuss the countermeasures as soon as possible. At least, the media can't report the news about this phenomenon first, otherwise, it will really cause a large-scale panic. Click. Outside the door of the conference room, a woman with glasses and an intellectual look suddenly opened the door of the conference room, attracting the attention of the officials in the entire conference room. Under the gaze of the officials in the conference room, the secretary came to Seiju's side, took out a vibrating phone, and said to Seiju. "Lord Seiju, there is a phone call." "Call." Seiju didn't even turn his head. "Wait until after the meeting." "But," the secretary said hesitantly. "This is President Noah's phone." "President Noah?" Sage Son of Heaven was slightly stunned. Then, he couldn't help but pick up the phone. "Hello." There was a moment of oppressive silence on the other end of the phone. Then, Noah's voice sounded. "Do you know where Chiwuzongxuan lives?" Seiju's body. Seiju's, Lords, Seiju's, that. President Chiwu should still be in the hotel, is that so? Noah said indifferently. His words made Holy Sun Tianzi completely stunned. "Get the car ready. The second meeting is about to begin." In the limousine heading to the hotel, the Holy Son of Heaven, who was sitting in the seat, looked at Noah with a rare uneasy expression. Noah, who was sitting opposite Xing Tianzi, was looking at the scenery outside the window. Undoubtedly, there was nothing wrong with him, but he was emitting an aura that even Xing Tianzi could sense, which made the temperature in the car seem to have dropped a lot. The Sage Son of Heaven could only clench his fists tightly and ask anxiously. "Excuse me, what happened?" During the meeting, it was impossible for the Sage Son of Heaven to follow Noah's instructions and prepare a car for the second meeting with Chiwuzongxuan. Putting aside Chiwuzongxuan's problem, the issue that needed to be discussed in the meeting that had just been held could not be put aside until it was resolved. However, after the Sage Son of Heaven told Noah about it, Noah told him not to worry about it. Although the Sage Son of Heaven didn't know what was going on, he surprisingly chose to trust Noah's words. Thus, the Sage Son of Heaven followed Noah's instructions and put the meeting on hold. He contacted Chiwuzongxuan urgently and prepared for the second meeting. After the car was prepared, Noah appeared in front of the Elysian Emperor and acted like this. In addition, Noah suddenly proposed a second meeting and didn't even give the Elysian Emperor the protection plan. All these abnormalities made it impossible for the Elysian Emperor to not notice. After the Sage Son of Heaven's uneasy voice sounded for a while, Noah, who was looking at the scenery outside the window, turned around and looked at the Sage Son of Heaven. Not only did he not answer the Sage Son of Heaven's question, but he also asked such a question. "What is next?" "Next?" The Sage Son of Heaven was obviously surprised. He hesitated for a moment before replying. "You already know about the existence of the New Human Creation Project, right?" Noah nodded silently. It was something the Sage Son of Heaven told him. It was impossible for him not to remember it. In fact, in addition to the New Human Creation Project in Japan, there are also similar mechanized soldiers projects in the UA, Germany, and Australia. The Sage Son of Heaven explained. Next is the American Mechanization Program Branch's Mechanization Program with Ayn Rand as the highest leader. Ayn Rand. Noah lowered his head and repeated the name as if he wanted to remember it. After a while, he raised his head and looked at the Sage Son of Heaven. "Then, can the mechanized soldiers also modify the cursed child?" Modify the cursed child? This time, the Sage Son of Heaven was really surprised and immediately shook his head. "No, I only heard that the mechanized soldiers were modified from people who were about to lose their lives, but how can the cursed child be modified?" The Sage Son of Heaven's words were not difficult to understand. The mechanized soldiers were all modified from people who were about to lose their lives. If they were healthy, if they were to be modified, then it would be a crime. However, the cursed child had the virus of the protozoan in their bodies. Not only did they have amazing strength, they also had a terrifying regenerative ability. Basically, it was impossible for them to cause any injuries or illnesses. Then, if the cursed child were to be modified into a mechanized soldier, what kind of situation would it be? It was very simple. It was to directly press the accursed child into the operating table while they were still alive. Moreover, in order to complete the modification, they had to use a titanium scalpel to prevent the accursed child's body from regenerating. The success rate of the mechanized soldier's modification is already very low. If the accursed child is modified with titanium alloy, the success rate will be even lower after preventing them from regenerating. The sage son of heaven said with a serious face. In that case, I really can't imagine how many healthy, cursed children would die on the operating table. Hearing this, a cold light flashed in Noah's eyes, and there was even a hint of viciousness. Ding! The clear sound of the elevator rang out, and the doors of the elevator slowly opened. Noah and the sage son of heaven walked out of the elevator and looked at the sofa in front of them at the same time. There, Chiwu Zhongshuan straightened his back, and there were 4 guards in black suits beside him, as if they had been waiting for a long time. Their eyes met with Noah's and the sage son's eyes. Chapter 134. I'm surprised. Chiwu Zhongshuan, who was surrounded by 4 guards, didn't wait for Noah and the Elysian son to come over. He stroked his beard and put his hands behind his back as he spoke these words. I didn't know that the Xingzi of Yodo has the habit of waking people up late at night for a meeting. Hearing this, Xingzi's face was calm, as if he had already expected Chiwu Zhongshuan to ask such a question. He nodded slightly apologetically. I'm very sorry. The decision was made in haste. Please forgive me for my rudeness, President Chiwu. Of course, I won't pursue such a small matter. Although he said so, Chiwu Zhongshuan's face was full of displeasure, showing his mood at this time. Then, Xingzi, can we start the meeting between us? Xingzi nodded and was about to step forward, but a hand suddenly pressed on Xingzi's shoulder, stopping him. Xingzi was stunned, and even Chiwu Zhongshuan frowned. Under the gaze of the 2 supreme rulers of Yodo and Osaka, Noah, who was holding Xingzi's shoulder, stared at Chiwu Zhongshuan until Chiwu Zhongshuan's face became a little ugly, then Noah spoke indifferently. Xingzi, how about leaving this meeting to me? President Noah. Xingzi was stunned, and he couldn't react for a long time. Obviously, he was extremely shocked that Noah would say such a thing. You? Chiwu Zhongshuan was also stunned for a moment, but after he reacted, he immediately laughed out loud, but there was a hint of anger in his voice. Who are you? What qualifications do you have to stand up and talk to me? Identity. Noah did not say anything. He just cast a sarcastic look at Chiwu Zhongshuan for less than a second, which reminded Chiwu Zhongshuan of the last time when they talked about identity. Chiwu Zhongshuan's face darkened even more. Chiwu Zhongshuan did not say anything. In this regard, Noah didn't say anything. While Xingzi was still in a daze, he stepped forward and stared at Chiwu Zhongshuan. I won't beat around the bush, Chiwu Zhongshuan, the mastermind behind the assassination of Xingzi is you, right? The air suddenly froze. Saint Child looked at Noah in disbelief. He had not expected Noah to say something like that in front of Chiwu Zhongshuan. Chiwu Zhongshuan's dignified face had long stiffened. The muscles on his face kept twitching. Obviously, he was caught off guard by Noah. In fact, as long as one was not a fool, one could more or less guess that the mastermind behind the assassination of the Holy Son of Heaven was Chiwu Zhongshuan, who wanted to occupy this country and become the overlord of the world. However, it would be foolish to question him directly in front of the ruler of a region without any evidence. The 4 guards around Chiwu Zhongshuan were already looking at Noah with disdain. Even the Holy Son of Heaven was a little anxious. Only Chiwu Zhongshuan, who had fully experienced Noah's strength in the last meeting, could not help but feel a chill in his heart. While secretly feeling that something was wrong, he glared at Noah. Officer, are you slandering me? Slandering? Noah approached Chiwu Zhongshuan step by step. Undoubtedly, his pair of dark eyes were very calm, but Chiwu Zhongshuan felt unusually oppressed and could not help but take a step back. You know best whether it's slander or not, don't you? You. The muscles on Chiwu Zhongshuan's face twitched again. Around Chiwu Zhongshuan, the 4 guards in black suits had already pulled out their guns, aimed at Noah, and shouted coldly in unison. Stop. If you come any closer, we'll shoot you for attempting to harm the regional president. Unfortunately, Noah did not even look at them. He still stared at Chiwu Zhongshuan and approached step by step. President Noah. The poor holy son of heaven did not expect things to develop to this point. He stood there anxiously. The 4 guards of Chiwu Zhongshuan had anger and murderous intent in their eyes, and they directly pulled the triggers of their guns. Bang! In the simultaneous gunshots, 4 bullets pierced through the air and violently shot toward Noah, who was gradually approaching. However, almost at the same time, a faint sound broke through the air from Noah's body. Then, Noah's figure became somewhat illusory. The 4 bullets pierced through Noah's illusory figure. No. It was not just pierced. The bullets that penetrated Noah's illusory body seemed to be like a mortar that blew away the fog, directly hitting the figure in front of it. That was, impressively, an afterimage. Whoosh! Immediately, a gust of wind blew past the 4 guards who were shooting with their guns. The next moment, it turned into a figure and appeared in front of Chiwu Zhongshuan. Chiwu Zhongshuan was suddenly shocked and wanted to retreat, but the tie in front of him was grabbed by a hand and pulled forward. Coo! Chiwu Zhongshuan suddenly made a depressed sound, and his body was involuntarily pulled forward by the tie. Grand President. The 4 guards were shocked and screamed aloud. They put their guns in front of Chiwu Zhongshuan, who was protected in the middle by them. Seeing Chiwu Zhongshuan being pulled up by his tie, they did not dare to act rashly and were a little flustered. Chiwu Zhongshuan, I'll make it clear to you. Don't expect me to show you any evidence. Noah directly grabbed Chiwu Zhongshuan's tie, pulled him up, and pulled him in front of him, and said sarcastically. Now that I have confirmed that you are the mastermind behind this, just like what I said last time, even if I kill you now, I will still live well. Why should I look for any evidence? You. Chiwu Zhongshuan's face turned purple and he was lifted up by Noah. His toes began to leave the ground. He wanted to say something, but because of suffocation, he could only squeeze out a painful sound. This made the 4 guards even more anxious. They roared to warn and bluff, which made Noah, who was already in a bad mood, even more impatient. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Noah pulled Chiwu Zhongshuan's tie with great force and threw him to the side. Chiwu Zhongshuan's body completely lost balance and fell to the side with Noah's action. With a bang, he hit the ground and screamed out in pain. What I like most is to use the same means to repay people who play tricks in front of me. Noah looked disdainfully at Chiwu Zhongshuan, who fell to the ground, and said in a condescending tone. Since you want to assassinate the Holy Son of Heaven, I will do the same to you. So, from now on, I will give you an hour to escape. After an hour, I will catch up with you. If you can escape from the Tokyo area, I will stop. If you can't. Noah's eyes flashed with a cold light that made Chiwu Zhongshuan's heart palpitate. Then your daydream of dominating the world will be crushed in my hands. After saying that, Noah turned around. Remember, you only have an hour. Chiwu Zhongshuan, who had always been unscrupulous, could not help but feel fear when he heard Noah's strong declaration and the cold aura around him. He screamed. Go! Take me away! The 4 guards immediately stepped forward and hurriedly helped Chiwu Zhongshuan up. They rushed into the elevator as if they were escaping. President. President Noah. At this time, the Holy Son of Heaven, who had been caught off guard and could not find a chance to interrupt, ran to Noah's side in a panic for the first time. "You! What are you doing? Enough!" Noah raised his hand and blocked the Holy Son of Heaven. His eyes looked through the glass window in front of him at the night view outside. "Just leave everything to me, if you still trust me." The Holy Son of Heaven opened his mouth, but in the end, he did not say anything and nodded with a worried face. The night was still going on, and it was destined to be quite long. Especially tonight. Chapter 135. Whoosh! On the dark road, a black limousine was driving at a speed of 150 kilometers per hour against the strong wind pressure as if its life depended on it. Bastard, bastard! Inside the limousine, Chiwu Zhongshuan gripped the door handle tightly and kept exerting force on it. The veins on his arms had already popped out, but he didn't care at all. He was still shouting with resentment on his face. A mere policeman dares, bastard. In the car, except for the driver, the other three guards held their guns tightly while fearfully enduring Chiwu Zhongshuan's angry and unwilling roar. Their hearts were beating violently. However, there was still a guard who chose to speak his mind. "President, why should we be afraid of that policeman? We should have just shot him, shouldn't we?" For these guards, who had only seen Noah once today, it was too embarrassing that Chiwu Zhongshuan, the ruler of the Osaka area, was so afraid of a policeman. Although these guards had seen Noah once in the hotel, they had not been able to stop Noah from approaching Chiwu Zhongshuan. At most, they felt that Noah did have some ability, but it was not enough to threaten the ruler of a region. Therefore, these guards really couldn't understand why Chiwu Zhongshuan ran away in such a panic. Such words naturally ignited the anger of Chiwu Zhongshuan, who was already very angry. Immediately, Chiwu Zhongshuan roared wildly. "What do you know?" The guards were shocked, but Chiwu Zhongshuan ignored them. He lowered his head, clenched his hands, and his face was pale. If possible, why wouldn't Chiwu Zhongshuan want to shoot Noah directly? Although Chiwu Zhongshuan coveted the power of the cursed child and the bullets that could kill the Scorpio in the fairy tale created by Noah, for Chiwu Zhongshuan, who was as ambitious as he was arrogant, Noah had offended him, and it was enough for him to die. But that was only if Chiwu Zhongshuan could kill Noah. Just like what Noah said, in today's world, a powerful police partner was enough to affect the military balance of the entire world. Chiwu Zhongshuan didn't know how powerful Noah was. However, Noah, who possessed the bullet, even if he wasn't very strong, his influence was still extraordinarily large. At the very least, Chiwu Zhongshuan felt that with his own strength, even if he gathered all the capable people under him, they would not be able to block a bullet that was powerful enough to kill a stage V protozoan. In addition, Noah had one-sided suppressed Chiwu Zhongshuan several times, and Chiwu Zhongshuan had sensed a fatal danger from Noah. Chiwu Zhongshuan could not guarantee that he could do anything to Noah. If he chose to fight against Noah, he didn't have a 100% chance of winning. It was even possible that he would fail miserably. Furthermore, the other party had all kinds of advantages and didn't need to worry about Chiwu Zhongshuan's identity. They could kill him at any time. So, other than running away, what else could Chiwu Zhongshuan do? In the past, although Chiwu Zhongshuan knew that a powerful police could affect the military balance of the entire world, knowing was one thing. Whether or not he could experience it was another. Now, this feeling of being powerless in the face of a powerful opponent made Chiwu Zhongshuan realize that in today's world, powerful strength was everything. As for identity, it was the same as what Noah had said. Chiwu Zhongshuan, who was adhering to these things, would either go back to the Osaka area and hide there for the rest of his life, or come out and dream of dominating the world. In the end, he would still have to walk towards failure with his identity. Hee hee. Chi Wuzongxuan's face pulled up into an extremely ugly smile. Noah Dole, you are indeed not an ordinary person. No wonder even the celestial chrysanthemum prime minister couldn't do anything to you. Consider it my loss this time, but you have also taught me the importance of true power. Therefore, I must make all the powerful people my claws and teeth. Chi Wuzongxuan already had this idea. However, after this incident, Chi Wuzongxuan was even more determined to have this idea. If Chi Wuzongxuan could return to the Osaka area alive, he would definitely implement this idea firmly, and then recruit many capable people to work for him. At that time, Chi Wuzongxuan, who focused on recruiting powerful people, might be able to further realize his ambition with the help of many powerful people under his command. Of course, that was if Chi Wuzongxuan could return alive. The driver, who was stepping on the accelerator, inadvertently caught a glimpse of the top of a building in front of him. Then, his eyes widened and he shouted in disbelief. What is that? The sudden shout made the already tense atmosphere in the car explode. It also made Chi Wuzongxuan stick his head out and shout. What's wrong? The driver could no longer look at the road and pointed at the top of a building in front of him. There. There. Hearing this, everyone in the car, including Chi Wuzongxuan, turned their eyes to the top of the building. The limousine, which was speeding at 150 kilometers per hour, was getting closer and closer to the building. Not long after, in the limousine, Chi Wuzongxuan's eyes widened. He saw that at the top of the building, which was getting closer and closer, a figure stood on the edge. With the dark night sky as the background, the figure stood against the wind. The coat on his body fluttered in the wind. He held a gun in his hand. Even though there was a short distance between them, his cold eyes seemed to be able to be seen clearly. He looked at Chi Wuzongxuan's eyes. Impossible. Impossible. The guards in the car were horrified, and Chi Wuzongxuan hurriedly looked at the time displayed on his watch. It had indeed been an hour since they left the hotel. However, only about 10 minutes had passed from Noah's 1-hour limit. The limousine was moving at 150 kilometers per hour. That was to say, after an hour, Chi Wuzongxuan was at least 150 kilometers away from the hotel. In just 10 minutes, a person 150 kilometers away appeared in front of them. How is this possible? Chi Wuzongxuan's roar rang out in the car. Shoot! Shoot! Standing on the high ground against the wind, Noah looked down at the approaching car in the distance with a cold expression on his face. Mr. Ruler of Osaka, our game has begun. As soon as he finished speaking, the windows of the speeding car were suddenly opened. Several guns poked out and aimed at Noah's direction. Without any pause, the muzzles immediately flashed with muzzle flashes. Bang, 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 bang. Loud and chaotic gunshots reverberated in the night sky. Bullets with lethal power also cut through the air and fell on Noah's body like raindrops amidst the sharp sonic booms. Dang, 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 dang. Unfortunately, when the rain of bullets shrouded Noah like a storm fell on Noah's body, a black curtain composed of shadows suddenly appeared in front of Noah. While stirring up fierce sparks and loud collisions, all the bullets were blocked and bounced off one by one. Chi Wuzongxuan, who saw this scene with his own eyes, almost stared out. After he reacted, he hurriedly shouted to the driver. Quick! Overtake them! The driver hurriedly stepped on the accelerator and accelerated the car. It overtook the building where Noah was and turned into another road in the blink of an eye. Noah immediately stopped dancing crazily, blocking the incoming bullets with his gun. He stared at the vehicle that was gradually getting smaller in his field of vision. He crouched down and in the next second, he dashed out of the vehicle. Of course, even Noah could not really fly. However, Noah used the buildings on both sides of the road as stepping stones. Like a meteor jumping between the buildings, he turned into a stream of light and chased in the direction of the car. Chapter 136. On both sides of the vast and long road, the black shadow turned into a stream of light. Like a meteor jumping, it used the roofs of the buildings as stepping stones and leaped violently, chasing in the direction of a limousine that was speeding towards the front of the road. Monster! Monster! Chiwu Zhongshuan, who saw this scene from the rearview mirror in the car, couldn't help but be frightened and murmured inaudibly. It wasn't that Chiwu Zhongshuan had never heard of people who could jump between buildings. For example, it was easy for the cursed child, who had strong physical abilities with protozoan virus in his body, to do this step. However, for a human being, it was almost impossible to accomplish with his own strength. Could it be that guy is a mechanized soldier born under the new human creation plan? Chiwu Zhongshuan could only think of this possibility. In addition to the cursed child, only a mechanized soldier with a machine transplanted in his body and transformed into the new human creation plan could do this. Damn the Holy Son of Heaven, he actually hid such a trump card in the Yodo area. Chiwu Zhongshuan spat out resentful words, then roared at the guards in the car. What are you doing? Shoot for me. The guards, who fell into a state of absent-mindedness because of the scene that exceeded common sense, only then did they wake up. They quickly raised the guns in their hands through the car window and madly fired at the meteor-like figure that was jumping between buildings and approaching at a very fast speed. Bang 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 bang. Like raindrops, the bullet screen once again poured out, shrouding the figure that was leaping between the buildings behind. Clang 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 clang. Unfortunately, the barrage of bullets either missed its target and landed in the building where Noah was just a second ago, or was directly blocked by the gun in Noah's hand as he leaped forward. All of the bullets were neutralized. Whoosh! Braving the violent wind, Noah leaped out with a sharp air-braking noise and chased after the speeding limousine. He stared at the black limousine on the main road. His eyes kept sizing up the limousine and finally landed on the tires of the limousine. Gotcha! Only Noah could hear the mechanical gunshots. Noah raised the gun in his hand, aimed at the speeding limousine, and suddenly pulled the trigger. Bang! A gunshot that was louder than any gunshot from the limousine echoed in the night sky. Whoosh! The powerful anti-tank bullet turned into a sharp sound of friction with the atmosphere and fell heavily on the wheels of the limousine. Bang! Suddenly, the fragile tires of the limousine exploded as if they were blown up by a small bomb. Gee! After losing a tire, the limousine immediately spun like a spinning top. Amidst the continuous screams inside, it slid forward. Immediately, a guardrail appeared in front of the gliding limousine. Bang! In the fierce collision that made people close their eyes, the limousine crashed into the guardrail, bounced off, and smashed into the ground not far away. It rubbed against the ground for nearly 100 meters before stopping. Dong! With a loud bang, the gorgeous limousine exploded magnificently and was completely covered by a thick and raging fire. If there were still people in the limousine, they would definitely die in such a big disaster. Fortunately, at the critical moment, the 4 guards jumped out of the limousine with Chiwu Zhongshuan. After rolling on the ground for a few times, they stabilized their bodies and groaned bitterly. Goo! Chiwu Zhongshuan only felt dizzy. There was no place in his body that did not hurt. Even the air in his lungs was squeezed out. Lying on the ground, he could no longer move. Grand President. Around him, the 4 well-trained guards were fine. They got up from the ground one by one. Just as they were about to gather around Chiwu Zhongshuan, an indifferent voice sounded behind them. Is this the end? The 4 guards were all frozen on the spot. Naturally, Chiwu Zhongshuan also heard the voice. He raised his head with difficulty and looked forward. In front of the raging fire caused by the explosion of the limousine, to Chiwu Zhongshuan at this time, there was no doubt that the figure of the Grim Reaper was there. His back was straight, and he held a spear as he walked over step by step. At this moment, Chiwu Zhongshuan deeply understood what the deepest fear was. "Stop, stop him!" Chiwu Zhongshuan shouted without caring about his image. "Quick! Stop him!" Just as Chiwu Zhongshuan's hysterical voice fell, the 4 guards hurriedly raised their guns and pointed them at Noah. Bang 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 bang. However, before the 4 guards had time to pull the trigger, 4 gunshots rang out. Immediately after, 4 powerful bullets landed heavily on the guns in the hands of the 4 guards. Clang 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 clang. As the guards exclaimed in unison, the guns in their hands were knocked out of their hands. "Get out of the way." The gun in Noah's hand was smoking as he said coldly to the 4 guards. "This is none of your business." Ha! Unfortunately, not only did the 4 guards ignore Noah's warning, but they also seemed to have gone mad. They roared, pulled out their daggers and batons, and rushed toward Noah. From the corner of his eyes, Noah glanced at the guards who were charging at him from all directions. He slowly gripped the gun that was emitting smoke from the muzzle and closed his eyes slightly. A moment later, his eyes suddenly opened and the gun in his hand turned into a black shadow, bringing with it an oppressive force that lifted the atmosphere. Like a small black wind wheel, with Noah as the center, it ruthlessly swung towards the surroundings. Clang 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 clang. Wherever the black wind wheel passed, sparks flew. The daggers and batons in the hands of the guards were directly shaken out of their hands by the powerful force contained in the wind wheel, and the web between their thumb and forefinger was also shaken to the point of cracking. Immediately, Noah's feet that were spinning suddenly stopped, and the black wind wheel dissipated. Looking up, Noah looked at the guards who were less than half a meter away from him, and his eyes turned cold. His body turned into an afterimage, and rushed in front of the 4 guards. Bang 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 bang. Following 4 muffled sounds, the 4 guards cried out in succession. They spat out mouthfuls of blood and flew backwards. They heavily smashed into the ground around them. After struggling for a while, they fell weakly to the ground. Chiwu Zhongshuan sucked in a breath of cold air. These 4 guards were very capable guards that Chiwu Zhongshuan had spent a lot of effort to recruit. If these 4 guards were active as police officers, as long as there was a passable initiator, they would definitely be able to get into the top 300 IP rankings. These 4 guards would not necessarily lose to the cursed child, who was not very strong. Now, in the blink of an eye, they were defeated in the hands of the young man in front of him. How could Chiwu Zhongshuan not be shocked? You. Looking at Noah standing in the middle of the 4 guards who had fallen to the ground, Chiwu Zhongshuan's body could not help but move back. Noah turned his head and looked at Chiwu Zhongshuan who was moving back on the ground. His eyes were like an ancient well, as if he had done something insignificant. He lifted his feet, walked forward, and came in front of Chiwu Zhongshuan. Noah raised his gun and pointed it at the head of Chiwu Zhongshuan, who was sitting on the ground, and spoke without mercy. "You can't escape from my hands." Chiwu Zhongshuan's body froze there, and he no longer moved back. Looking at the black muzzle pointing at his head, the fear in his heart was even stronger. After all, as long as the owner of the gun gently pulled the trigger, the fatal bullet that was comparable to an anti-tank sniper rifle would break Chiwu Zhongshuan's head and make Chiwu Zhongshuan's head explode like a watermelon. At that time, the dignified ruler of the Osaka region would not be able to leave behind a glorious history, only a notorious reputation for oppressing the people, and disappear from the stage of history without any achievements. Chapter 137. Crackle. Crackle. The raging fire continued to burn on the charcoal-like scrap iron of the limousine, releasing a scorching red light that illuminated the dark night sky. In front of the fire, Noah, who was holding a gun, pointed it at himself, and Chi Zhongshuan, who was sitting on the ground, looked at each other. For a long time, they did not speak. Looking at Noah's emotionless eyes, Chi Zhongshuan had no doubt that Noah would pull the trigger at any time. Calm down. I must calm down. Chi Zhongshuan could only remind himself in his heart. He forced himself to calm down, looked at Noah, and clenched his teeth. What will it take for you to let me go? Beg for mercy. Noah seemed to be indifferent as he sneered. That doesn't seem like something you would do, President Chiwu. At the very least, I don't have that kind of boring self-esteem where I have to protect my pride even if I die. Chi Zhongshuan stared at Noah, as if he would pull the trigger if he looked away. I still have ambitions that I want to achieve no matter what. I don't want to die like this. So, tell me, what will it take for you to let me go? You should be glad that I don't have a heart full of righteousness like a hero. Otherwise, for the sake of the people in Osaka who have been oppressed by you, I would have killed you here, Noah said calmly, but his eyes were cold. Before that, I want to ask you a question. Chi Zhongshuan secretly sighed in relief and nodded. Go ahead. You were the one behind the assassination of Sage Tianzi, right? Noah looked at Chi Zhongshuan coldly. The person you asked was Ayn Rand, right? I did issue such a request. Chi Zhongshuan hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he chose not to hide it and told the truth. However, I only issued a request to a foreign partner. I don't know who they gave the order to or what kind of people they sent to carry it out. Oh. Noah smiled sarcastically. You have a relationship with a foreign partner. It seems that you are not just a daydream. Noah did not doubt the authenticity of Chi Zhongshuan's words. After all, such an assassination request would usually go through several people before it was finally passed on to the executor. Only in this way could the identity of the mastermind behind the scenes be perfectly concealed. Chi Zhongshuan had only sent out a request to a foreign country. Then, his collaborator had accepted the request and sent it to Ayn Rand. Only then did Ayn Rand send Tina to the Tokyo area to carry out the mission. With so many complicated steps, if they only caught the assassin, it would be even more difficult to find the mastermind behind all this. Chi Zhongshuan's luck was really bad. If it was someone else, he wouldn't be able to do anything even if he suspected that Chi Zhongshuan was the mastermind behind the assassination of the Elysian prince. Because he had no evidence at all. Therefore, even the Elysian child himself could not find a way to deal with Chi Zhongshuan. However, Chi Zhongshuan just had to meet Noah, who was rude and unreasonable, who did not play by the rules, and who possessed unparalleled power. This caused Chi Zhongshuan's meticulous deployment to be disrupted, and he was the one who was defeated. I don't care who you sent the request to, and I don't care about your unrealistic ambitions. Noah looked at Chi Zhongshuan, and his body began to release an aura that caused the surrounding temperature to drop. However, because of the matter of the assassin who helped you carry out the mission, I am very unhappy now, and I am even more unhappy with the guy who sent her here directly. Hearing these words, Chi Zhongshuan was startled at first, and then he thought of something. He looked at Noah in astonishment, and his voice was full of uncertainty. You mean, you want me to help you deal with Ayn Rand? I don't want you to help me. Noah looked at Chi Zhongshuan condescendingly. But, if you want to live, you can only exchange his life for yours. Chi Zhongshuan trembled all over and suddenly came to a realization. An incredible thought rose in his mind. Could it be that this person did not care about his life or death at all, and was not in the mood to deal with him? The reason why he forced him to this point and did not kill him directly was to let him deal with Ayn Rand. From the beginning, he did not enter his sight and was regarded as an enemy by him. To him, this pursuit was just a means to achieve his goal. Thinking of this, Chi Zhongshuan had an absolutely uncontrollable fear of Noah. Not only did he have wisdom comparable to the highest level of politicians, but he also had incomparable power, and his methods were so brilliant. What a terrifying person. Such a person was definitely not an enemy. At this moment, Qi Zongxuan's fear and scruples for Noah rose to the peak. He gritted his teeth and nodded heavily. I can promise you, but you have to give me some time. Ayn Rand was the highest person in charge of the next in the United States. Her brain could even be ranked in the top 3 in the world. Otherwise, she would not have the ability to transform mechanized soldiers. Such a person, although her status was not high, could play a great role in a country. Even if Qi Zongxuan wanted to deal with such a person, he could not do it openly. He could only do it behind the scenes, just like when he assassinated the Son of Heaven. Noah, who understood this, did not say anything. His heart, which had been suppressed because of Tina's appearance, slowly calmed down a lot. In this way, he could more or less get some interest for those cursed children who died on the operating table and were reduced to experimental subjects. In the future, no other cursed children would be killed by Ayn Rand. I hope President Chiwu can get rid of this eyesore as soon as possible. Noah put away the gun in his hand and turned around. I believe that today's experience will also make President Chiwu believe that if I want to find you, even if you hide in the Osaka area, I can still go to you. After leaving this sentence, Noah took a few steps forward and bent down. His figure turned into a stream of light and soared into the sky like a meteor, streaking across the sky and landing in another direction. Qi Zongxuan still sat on the ground, looking around at the guards lying on the ground and the still burning limousine, and then looking in the direction where Noah disappeared. He did not speak for a long time. Tokyo District 1, Saint Residence. In the corridor, Noah walked in the direction of the Son of Heaven's room with heavy steps. Behind Noah, a group of guards led by Juren Baowei followed closely. As they followed, they could hear Juren Baowei's angry shouts. Noah Doria! Stop right there! Unfortunately, Noah didn't care about the annoying cawing of the bodyguard, who sounded like an injured crow, as he continued to walk forward. Didn't I tell you that the Son of Heaven has already rested? Juren Baowei's voice was getting more and more crazy. Noah Doria! Do you like to stay with the Son of Heaven so much? Noah still didn't pay attention to the bodyguard. He let the bodyguard yell behind him as he passed through a corridor. As long as he passed through another corridor, he would reach the Son of Heaven's room. Seeing that Noah was ignoring him, and recalling the last sniper incident, the Son of Heaven that he coveted was snuggled in his arms and repeatedly invited him into her room. The anger in Juren Baowei's heart was beyond the scope of rational control. You're just a policeman. Juren Baowei growled and pulled out his gun, suddenly pointing at Noah's back and yelling with a face full of resentment. Don't be too arrogant. Bang! The next moment, a muffled sound was heard. However, it was not the sound of Juren Baowei's gun, but the sound of a fist suddenly smashing into his face and sending him flying. Bang! Then, a foot landed heavily on Juren Baowei's chest as he was about to fly backward, kicking him to the ground. Juren Baowei, who was in so much pain, only heard this sound. You came to me when I was in a bad mood. You asked for it. After that, a series of punches and kicks landed on Juren Baowei's body without mercy. Ah! Juren Baowei's screams echoed throughout the Saint residence. Chapter 138. As soon as the door was pushed open, a melodious tune drifted out of the room and into Noah's ears. Noah was slightly startled, then silently walked into the room and gently closed the door. He raised his eyes and looked at the corner of the room. As always, Elysium, dressed in a white wedding gown, sat in front of a piano like a holy maiden. Her eyes were closed, and a quiet smile hung on her beautiful face. Her 10 fingers, which were wearing lace gloves, slid lightly on the piano keys, playing a beautiful piano piece. Seeing this, Noah's face, which had been tense for the whole night, finally softened. He did not make a sound, directly leaning against the door, arms crossed, eyes closed, and quietly listened to the beautiful piano music in the room. His heart slowly calmed down. Elysium's performance, strictly speaking, was not considered good. At the very least, it was incomparable to those musicians who had painstakingly studied the piano field for a long time. However, from the point of view of the masses, Elysium's performance could be said to be beautiful, and in the eyes of professional musicians, there was no fault to be found. Perhaps it was because the performer herself was a peace-loving, extremely kind and holy girl. After the piano piece was played, the beautiful movement became impeccable under the holy and pure temperament of the beautiful girl playing it. It also became very easy to resonate with others. Noah was the same. From Elysium's performance, Noah could clearly feel Elysium's love for peace and the great desire to create an ideal world, which made his heart calm down. It was incredible. This performance lasted for who knows how long. Until a certain moment, the beautiful sound of the zither seemed to gradually dissipate into the echoes, disappearing into the air bit by bit, causing Noah, who was leaning against the door with his eyes closed to listen, to open his eyes. Immediately, in the room, the man and woman who were alone together cast their eyes on each other at the same time. The two pairs of eyes also tightly locked, and for a moment, they did not move away. As a result, in the vast luxurious boudoir, the warm and quiet atmosphere suddenly turned aesthetic, causing the temperature in the air to rise slightly, adding a lot of warmth. In this atmosphere where only the two of them were left in each other's eyes, Noah's face could not help but show a trace of awkwardness, and Elysium's face also showed a faint blush. After a while, they both returned to normal, breaking the slightly pink atmosphere. Standing up from the piano chair, Elysium walked in front of Noah, showing a gentle smile. This piece was composed by the same musician as the one you played here for the first time. I can hear it. Noah also chuckled. Compared to the first time you played in front of me, your piano skills have improved a lot. You're even better than me now. That's because you taught me well. Elysium's smile. Also, to be able to smoothly play a complete piece, I am already satisfied. Noah nodded empathetically. Like Elysium, he was satisfied to be able to smoothly play a complete piece after learning the piano, and did not specifically study it. Whether it was Noah or Elysium, both of them considered playing the piano as a hobby to pass time, but not a hobby. After all, both of them had things that they really wanted to do. After a little chat, Elysium's smile disappeared, and she looked straight at Noah. I saw the confrontation between you and President Chi-Woo on the big screen in the headquarters. Really? Noah sighed, lowered the hands in front of him, and gently bowed to Elysium. Sorry, this time I acted on my own accord. I am very grateful that you allowed me to do as I pleased. Didn't you ask me to trust you? Elysium shook his head, but there was a hint of bitterness in his smile. Moreover, compared to me, you're more suitable to confront that ambitious president. If it weren't for you, I would have died in the previous ambush. During the meeting with President Chi-Woo, we'll definitely have friction due to our different ideals. Who knows, we might even become enemies. So you are worried about this? Noah frowned slightly. I'll get straight to the point. You've seen what kind of person Chi-Woo Zongxuan is. He wants to eliminate you and even the rulers of the other regions to unify this country. You, on the other hand, want to show peace in this chaotic world. No matter what, you two will become enemies. I know, so I am very grateful to you. Elysium said in a sincere tone. After your suppression, that ambitious schemer should temporarily restrain himself, and because of your existence in the Tokyo area, he won't dare to act rashly in the Tokyo area, which has bought me a lot of time. You also said that it is temporary. Noah glanced at Elysium. In short, this time I acted on my own accord. Even if I didn't cause you trouble, it can't change the fact. I hope you can understand. President Noah, you have gone too far. Elysium seemed to be a little unaccustomed to Noah's apology. As you said, although you acted on your own accord, it is also a fact that you have helped me a lot. Here, I need to express my gratitude. After that, Elysium bowed slightly to Noah. For the ruler of a region, this was already the highest form of treatment and etiquette given to others. In this regard, Noah did not choose to be polite or refuse. After accepting Elysium's bow, he smiled as if a heavy burden had been lifted off his shoulders. In that case, the task of the guard has come to an end. Yes. It was indeed over. The mastermind behind the assassination of Elysium, Chi Wuzongxuan, was already on his way back to Osaka. The sniper who wanted to assassinate Elysium had also been defeated by Noah. In addition, the guard's time limit had already passed during the meeting with Chi Wuzongxuan. Therefore, Noah's guard mission was considered complete. Yes, it's over. Elysium's eyes moved slightly as her beautiful eyes locked onto Noah's. The request from last time, is it still not allowed? Looking at Elysium's beautiful eyes, Noah fell silent. Elysium's request must be for Noah to come to her side and help her rule the entire Tokyo region. Using the word request, it was obvious how much Elysium valued Noah. Unfortunately, Noah still laughed at Elysium's request. You should know that no matter how many times you ask, I will not agree. That's why I'm really confused. Elysium smiled bitterly. Why can't you agree to my request? The reason? Noah muttered to Elysium. You really don't know the reason. Elysium lowered her head. Noah had said more than once that he could not find a reason to protect the Tokyo region, so he could not agree to Elysium's request. However, apart from this, there was another reason. The job of assisting Elysium seems to be Tentong Chrysanthemum's job, right? Noah said directly. Is it really okay for me to stay by your side with Tentong Chrysanthemum's prime minister? Elysium was silent for a long time before speaking in a low voice. I just want to try my best to recruit capable people. After all, I still have a lot of shortcomings, and I can only rely on capable people to make up for them. You're wrong. Noah suddenly interrupted Elysium. You have to find ways to make up for your shortcomings, but you can't blindly rely on others to make up for it. Elysium was stunned. Take Tentong Chrysanthemum's prime minister for example. He can indeed make up for many of your shortcomings, and indirectly improve the governance of the Tokyo region. However, this also led to the last time. Undoubtedly, you knew that the other party's actions had caused harm, but you could only choose to tolerate it. Noah looked directly at Elysium and said word by word. If you really want to represent peace and become a qualified ruler that represents peace, then it's time to choose independence, Your Highness. These words pierced deeply into Elysium's heart, leaving an indelible mark in her heart. Chapter 139. When the bright sunlight shone through the window and illuminated the entire room, Hina slowly opened her slightly heavy eyes. The ceiling that came into view was unfamiliar. Hina was stunned for a long time, and a confused look appeared on her face. Sitting up, Hina found that she was lying on a bed, surrounded by a room that she had never seen before. Tina surveyed her surroundings with a puzzled expression. This place is... She furrowed her brows tightly as she tried to recall the scene before she lost consciousness. Hina remembered that she was sent to the Yodo area by her master to assassinate the Holy Sun, but she was defeated by a very powerful person in the first sniper attack. Later, after contacting the higher-ups, Hina learned that the person who was more than 1 kilometer away from her, but showed a stronger sniper ability and strength than her, was the president of Fairy Tale, Noah Dole. Whether it was Fairy Tale or Noah Dole, for Hina, they were all very familiar names. After all, Noah and Fairy Tale were the famous shelter of the cursed child. Because of this, the existence of Noah and Fairy Tale had already spread throughout the world, the only difference was the size of their reputation. For all the accursed children, who had heard of the existence of Noah and Fairy Tale, it was absolutely impossible for them not to pay attention to such an existence, and it was impossible for them not to have a good impression of such an existence. Hina was also one of the people who looked forward to Noah and Fairy Tale very much. After receiving the order to come to the Yodo area, Hina really wanted to meet Noah and see Fairy Tale. Unfortunately, before she had time to do this, Hina received the order that Noah was the person who defeated her in the sniper incident. At the same time, she also received the order to eliminate this obstacle. To be honest, Hina couldn't accept it. However, that was an order. For Tina, who was raised as a tool and could only rely on it to survive, if she disobeyed it, she would lose the meaning of living. Thus, Tina had no choice but to compromise. In the end, Tina was defeated once again. Moreover, Tina also discovered that the guild leader of Fairy Tale, whom she had always yearned for, was the first person in her life who was gentle to her, the first person who completely accepted her, and the first person who took care of her with incomparable care. After that, the series of battles with Noah also surfaced in Tina's mind. And at the end of this memory, it stopped at the scene where Noah pointed a gun at himself and pulled the trigger. Tina's memory stopped at this place before disappearing. This meant that after Noah pulled the trigger, Tina was already in this room when she opened her eyes. Is this heaven? Tina muttered to herself before a wave of drowsiness washed over her. Disregarding her identity as the next mechanized soldier, Tina was still an owl-type initiator. Under the influence of the owl-type factor in her body, not only could Tina enter her best state at night like an owl, but she also had enhanced vision and hearing. Therefore, Tina had always been active at night when she was most suitable for herself, resulting in her mental state not being very good during the day. Now, even if she had sufficient rest, she was still a little sleepy. Gotcha! At this moment, the sound of the door opening echoed, causing Tina to tremble and quickly look in the direction of the door. The person who walked into the room was a little girl about the same age as Tina. Moreover, it was a little girl that Tina was quite familiar with. At this moment, Tina was stunned and spoke in surprise. Xiaoshi. You're awake. Xiaoshi, who walked into the room, raised his head and looked at Tina. He found that she was awake, but her face was expressionless as he nodded calmly. Do you feel any discomfort? No. Tina answered subconsciously, but she immediately reacted. Her gaze focused and the stern gaze that usually only appeared at night appeared in Tina's eyes. She then turned to look at Xiaoshi. Where is this place? Here. Xiaoshi said calmly. This is Fairy Tale. Fairy Tale? Tina's little face was filled with confusion. Why am I in Fairy Tale? Hearing this, Xiaoshi reminded her. Do you remember what happened before you lost consciousness? Tina couldn't help but recall the battle at night, and her expression became even more confused. I remember that I was defeated by my brother, and I even begged my brother to kill me, and then my brother pulled the trigger on me as I wished. That's right. Xiaoshi suddenly spoke, interrupting Tina's memories. You have already been killed by the president once. Killed once? Tina almost couldn't understand the meaning of this sentence, causing her to ask. What do you mean? What I mean is, the previous Tina Sprinter is already dead. Xiaoshi answered matter-of-factly. The current you is only the president's captive. Captive. Seeing that Tina was about to reveal a confused expression again, Xiaoshi directly grabbed Tina's hand and brought her down from the bed. Follow me. After saying this, Xiaoshu pulled Tina, who was still in a daze, out of the room. In the moderately sized living room, Noah sat on the sofa. It was rare that he wasn't dealing with official business, but he held the remote control and madly pressed on the TV in front of him, looking for a program that he liked. Not long after, the sound of two people's footsteps came from the corridor, causing Noah to stop what he was doing and look in the direction of the corridor. There, Xiaoshu held Tina's hand and walked in front of Noah. Xiaoshu let go of Tina's hand and silently retreated to the side. "Brother." Tina glanced at Noah and found that Noah was also looking at her. She lowered her head with a depressed expression as if she wanted to say something but couldn't. At this point, if Tina still didn't know what was going on, then all the shady missions she carried out would have been for nothing, and she would have gotten to the 98th position in the IP rankings for nothing. In this situation, other than Noah sparing her life, was there any other possibility? She wanted to kill Noah. But Noah didn't kill her. Instead, he spared her and even brought her back to Fairy Tale. All these facts caused Tina's emotions to fluctuate for a long time, and she was still unable to say a word. If you don't know what to say, then don't say anything. Noah seemed to see through Tina's heart as he reached out and patted Tina's head. "I just want to ask you, do you want to stay in Fairy Tale?" Stay in Fairy Tale? Unsurprisingly, Tina's face showed signs of wavering. As long as one heard of the existence of Fairy Tale, and was a cursed child, then there was no one who didn't want to stay in Fairy Tale. After all, Fairy Tale was the only shelter that could accommodate a cursed child. But, could she really stay in Fairy Tale? "My body is the product of the country's technology." Tina's face was full of disappointment. "Master won't let me stay here." However, Tina's disappointment was heavily dispersed by Noah's words. "That's something I need to consider." Noah rubbed Tina's head fiercely. "You children only need to think about how to live happily." Feeling the warmth from the big hand on her head, Tina was immersed in it for a long time. Chapter 140. 98th place in the IP ranking. When Noah introduced Hina to Mugino and Rintaro, who happened to visit the house, Mugino and Rintaro looked at Hina in shock. Looking at Hina, who was standing beside Noah with a dazed expression and a silly smile on her face, Mugino and Rintaro looked at each other with a doubtful expression. "Is this for real?" Mugino walked half a circle around Hina. When he saw that Hina had lowered her head and was dozing off, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. "To be honest, I know Noah isn't the kind of person who would lie, but I really can't believe that this child is a monster in the top 100 IP ranking." Mechanical soldiers. Rintaro paid attention to Hina's other identity. He seemed to be very interested in the mechanical soldiers. Cursed child, and mechanical soldiers. If this is true, then it's not strange for her to be in the top 100 IP ranking. Originally, the abilities of the cursed child were far beyond the scope of humans. Otherwise, they wouldn't be called the last hope of humanity. As for the mechanized soldiers, they were specially researched to be used in battle against the protozoa, whose strength far exceeded that of humans. Even some of the stronger cursed children could be compared to them. Now, both of these factors were concentrated in one person. Therefore, it was easy to imagine how strong this person was. Being able to be in the top 100 IP ranking was not an exaggeration at all. Only Noah knew that even if Mugino and Rintaro believed that Hina was in the top 100 IP ranking, they still underestimated Hina's ability. As everyone knew, the IP ranking was a ranking created by the International Initiator Monitoring Organization (ISO), after calculating the battle record and strength of each police team. In other words, the IP ranking of a police team was based on the battle record of the police team, as well as the combat ability of the initiator and the promoter. Therefore, the International Initiator Monitoring Organization, ISO, released a ranking for each police team with IP as a prefix. Initiator and promoter, when the first letters of the two were combined, it was IP. Because of this, once a police team disbanded, no matter who it was, as long as they formed a new team, the IP ranking would restart and start again. It was also because of this that Noah, who did not have an initiator, had not been promoted by the International Initiator Monitoring Organization, ISO. Hina was different. Hina had her own partner. That was Ayn Rand. However, as Hina's police partner, Ayn Rand only played the role of a commander. She didn't have any combat ability at all. Other than having a brain that was much stronger than the average person, she was completely an ordinary person. Therefore, Hina's IP ranking was completely based on her own combat ability. If Hina had an outstanding promoter, then the IP ranking would definitely be more than 98. This, Noah could guarantee. Unfortunately, the news of me joining Fairy Tale will soon spread to my master, my partner. At that time, we will definitely disband and the IP ranking will also restart. Because the assassination of the Holy Son of Heaven was not something that could be casually exposed, Hina could only explain it this way. Therefore, this IP ranking won't be maintained for long. You'll only lose your ranking, not your combat ability. Noah patted Hina's little head. As long as Hina finds a new partner, with your combat ability, you'll quickly rush into the top 100 again. Hearing this, before Hina had time to react, Muging's eyes lit up and suddenly smiled in front of Hina. Hey, Hina-chan, why don't you come to our Tendo Civilian Police Company? Noah and Rentaro were both stunned. Didn't I tell you that Hina has already joined Fairy Tale? Noah was speechless. Are you trying to poach me? Muging-san. Rentaro's face was full of awkwardness. No matter what, isn't this a little too obvious? What does it matter? Muging glanced at Noah, snorted, and turned her head away. In any case, President Noah will definitely respect other people's choices, right? As soon as she said this, not to mention Noah, even the slow-witted Rentaro could sense the hostility in her words. What's wrong with Muging-san? Rentaro couldn't help but mutter. Recently, she's been getting angry for no reason. What's going on? While Rentaro was still muttering, Noah realized that Muging's tone was so angry because he was there. Needless to say, Muging must still be thinking about what happened last time. He thought about the last time Noah went to the Tendo Civilian Police Company, and the incident of the lucky pervert. With this in mind, Noah couldn't help but want to tease Muging. He squatted down, patted Hina's little head, and asked with a smile. Hina, do you want to leave Fairy Tale and leave Big Brother's side? Leave Big Brother's side. Hina, who was in a daze, was startled at first, then she shook her head without hesitation. No. Tina-chan. Muging's mouth twitched, and she looked at Hina with a fake smile. There's nothing good about that kind of guy. Our Tendo Civilian Police Company is a good choice. What's the specifics? Noah looked at Muging with a half-smile and dealt a fatal blow. Could it be that the Tendo Civilian Police Company is treating you better than Fairy Tale? Muging's smile, which was already very forced, immediately froze. Could it be that the Tendo Civilian Police Company is more famous than Fairy Tale? The muscles on Muging's face kept twitching. Could it be that the Tendo Civilian Police Company is doing better than Fairy Tale? The word well was printed on Muging's smooth forehead with a bam sound. Or, does the Tendo Civilian Police Company provide free food and accommodation for the employees, and can also pay for the employees' tuition fees? Noah shrugged. President of Tendo, is the treatment in your company at least at this level? Ha. Ha. Mugging had an extremely fake smile on his face. These things will happen sooner or later, is that so? Noah suddenly realized, and then patted Hina's head. Then Hina, do you want to go to the Tendo Civilian Police Company? No. Hina shook her head vigorously. I want to stay by Big Brother's side, no matter how good the treatment is. Mugging was instantly petrified. Sigh. Rentaru covered his face as he could not bear to watch. Ms. Mugging, can't you see that Hina just wants to follow Noah? Well, President of Tendo, it's not that you don't have charisma, it's just that you found the wrong person to poach. Noah was amused. So, please don't be discouraged, your goal is to improve the treatment of the Tendo Civilian Police Company, and work hard. You. Mugging was so angry that his whole body trembled, and he ran out with tears in his eyes. Remember this. Ms. Mugging. Rentaru was shocked, and just as he was about to chase after him, Noah sighed beside him. Hina. Noah lowered his head and said to Hina, who had been dozing off. You go and rest first. Okay, Hina replied in a soft voice, and then wobbled toward the direction of the room. Noah then walked toward Mugging. You can't even take a joke like this, and you call yourself a lady. Rentaru stared blankly at Noah, who was walking out, and then he quickly chased after him. You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.